The progenitor can now sleep well, for generations of the Xiao family have treated you with deep reverence. A strong wind comes up, everything in the circle goes flying in different directions. The subordinates bow to the coffin standing in front of them. The main character seems to have been thrown into another world. He didn't have any talents and had a pretty ordinary life. Luckily, the EMU got a lot of concubines, and thanks to them, a large Xiao family was founded. The elderly man says that although he couldn't change the world couldn't change him in return. The weeping son notifies that only the wife of the third-generation great-grandson is giving birth, so she won't be able to attend. But the rest of his family is here, to hear his last words and to see him off to the next world. Grandpa says that everything in this world is fleeting, just like people's lives. The loyal servants can't contain their sadness. Grandpa says that's the beauty of it. Everything goes away at some point. Lastly, he asks if you've already chosen a name for the newborn. Since the family is prosperous, they chose the name Michael. The subordinate has a frightened look on his face, looking only at one point. The end came as soon as he heard the newborn's name. The servants are grateful and wish their master to rest in peace. This child seems to have been blessed with spiritual roots. Therefore, the Semitic prosperity and success system has been officially activated. Unique martial arts and countless premium rewards are offered for each descendant of the host system. Suddenly, the dying man rises from the bed, full of strength. He doesn't understand what's going on or why he's still healthy. Even more perplexed is the subordinate standing next to him. The two girls in the back dropped their mouths in surprise. There is a moment of silence in the room. Everyone's attention turned to just one. People rejoice. It's a miracle. The forefather is risen. Some unknown person is watching obliquely and assessing the situation, after which he pushes back the tool with his hand and walks out of there. So uncautious that even the flashlight staggered from the wave. Everything had calmed down. Only a little wind remained. One guy says there was the slightest bit of hope before this. Is it all repeating itself? It turns out that the system is only activated when you turn exactly 100 years old. She congratulates the owner and gives an exclusive rookie set, 360 extra days of life. Just as many other pluses like spiritual roots of supreme chaos, immortal cultivation technique, and most importantly, obtaining 50 years of cultivation, he now had to team up with her. This aura heads towards the hero's head and forms a golden glow. A special red stone unseen by anyone appears on his forehead. A large amount of energy is directed to it. Incredible rings of magic form around the hands. The old decrepit hand becomes young and tender. One remembers history. It is the ultimate rhyme of the Tao, and to behold such a thing is truly a heavenly opportunity. In his last moments of life, the master gained enlightenment and perhaps even immortality. The system notifies you that you have mastered the first level of key cultivation. But the orb inside is starting to grow. Already level 3. The final level becomes level 9, and instead of a decrepit grandfather, a handsome young man appears. That's it! The basics are now fully formed. The boy rises and looks up with a dazed look on his face. His fingers are even shiny and glistening like a baby's. Such a leap in strength, and in just one day, an admirable result. The servant congratulates the honored gentleman on his new path. The others follow his example and bow all the way down. There will be a reward for every child born into the family, and with them longevity. So, his son's generation is already in the neighborhood of 70 years old. There's not much hope left for them. While the grandchildren are somewhere around 50, there is more hope for them. But the great-grandchildren are young and have to labor day and night. Well, it's time to sow the seeds. The guy holds out his hand and addresses his subordinate. The one has no right to refuse and rises from his knees. The protagonist is asked to give everyone in the family an order. It goes like this. The younger generation should push on and give birth to more offspring. Now events will unfold 10 years later. The estate was larger and more luxurious than before. A large gazebo sits on the backside of the mountain. That's where we meet the handsome William, our protagonist. Eldest son Edward reports that all orders have been successfully carried out. The Xiao family has become famous for accepting concubines from all corners of the world. In all that time, they had become the largest clan in Sunset City. Mentally, William opens his personal interface to check all the information. He's been living in seclusion all this time, and Sunset City still believes he's dead. For optimal growth, it's better to keep hiding. Old servant Kale says that Nyland's family has decided to call off the marriage. The progenitor is very unhappy. It's very important to him. It seems young Lady Linda had been accepted as a special disciple by the Kingland sect head, and they had gathered in the main hall to escort them. This clan has gone too far. The protagonist certainly doesn't like it. Suddenly, a notification from the system arrives that David has been denied marriage. And so also presents a choice: endure the humiliation or aggressively fight back. For the second is presented a nice reward: the Emperor of Fate of Flame. The Emperor of Flame Fate is an ancient deity born from the essence of a fallen emperor. It has mystical, colossal power and improves the abilities of spiritual roots, also allowing one to be devoted to others. People wondered at the sudden change in mood. Had William lost his memory? Edward is a mere mortal with no spiritual roots and cannot cultivate, so the future of the family rests on the shoulders of the young, such as David. William says that he knows about the sect head. He is one step away from becoming an expert of the Golden Core realm. The son is immensely pleased. Their master is going to stand up for them. Still, the Nalans are really trying to humiliate the Xiao clan by only relying on their leader. They will definitely test their luck on their family, as the progenitor became the owner of the Golden Core. Vladika asks not to worry. He will sort out any problems that have accumulated. There are already disgruntled guests waiting for them in the main hall, for it is disrespectful to be late. The patriarch of the Nalan family, George, sits at the head, with his daughter Linda seated next to him. The servants of the place are angered by the behavior of the arrivals and reason with them in a bad way. Edward greets Georgie and says they haven't seen each other in a while. But the latter gets straight to the point and mentions the engagement between the lady and the young man. He puts a high-level specially created elixir to purify the body. After not waiting for an answer, he leaves and lastly says that it can be considered for compensation. Looks like they thought it through from the beginning. Such a potion is indeed valuable. In that case, their kind may owe them. In fact, the main character is watching everything through some sort of portal. But William won't let just one vial handle everything. He has a great idea, which we'll hear about soon. David says they can't agree to the terms and those must take the elixir away. Two people are surprised and they have to stop. Enraged, he orders an ordinary child not to interfere in the affairs of the Nalan family. But despite everything, David still comes closer and closer. Finding himself near Lady Linda, he asks if breaking off the engagement was her idea and receives only a positive answer. The girl says that the gulf between them is too great and he will only prove to be a threat to cultivation. Watching all of this, William only scoffs and sips a cup of juice. As coming from a prominent family, George should realize that asking for a breakup is a very shameful action. And if David agrees to their request, their family's future is doomed. Linda's eyes slowly filled with furious rage. How could any mortal discuss such a thing in front of a lady like her? Although if one were to set aside the Qinglan sect support, it wouldn't amount to anything. Besides, how can she be sure that David is ordinary? He let out energy. The young man had long since entered the path of cultivation. This is the fourth stage of refinement and the one just one step behind Linda, the chapter's personal disciple. Everyone is amazed. How could something like this be possible? Looking at the young guy, the girl has strange feelings. David is a cultivator who has embarked on the path of immortality. But is that definitely his strength? Linda manages to be spellbound, standing with her mouth open for some time. Gathering her strength, the girl says that she can postpone the question of engagement, but with one condition. If she's still got something left, it's worth listening to. The girl says her condition is that the annulment will be delayed for 10 years. If she wins, she will publicly break up the marriage. At the same time, the matter will only be resolved between them and Xiao's family will not be affected. But David follows the wisdom of his ancestors. Live and be anywhere, but underestimate the beggarly youth. Head Nalan with a grim face listens to him intently. Edward, standing behind, praises the well-spoken words. He is worthy of the title of a descendant of the Qiao family. Only the guy doesn't dare to instruct the girl, for he is a rank below. The girl is sure that as time goes on, he will definitely be on his knees begging for mercy. David doesn't fall for the provocation and pulls out some kind of sheet. With magic, he pulls it through to the other side, after which he runs his hand over his lip, from which blood drips. The guy stamps his blood on the parchment. Before the girl appears a document not desired by her annulment of the engagement. As of today, their families no longer have any further relationship. But the girl doesn't understand why he's doing this to her, Linda. The protagonist's plan has been successfully executed. They are now standing on two different sides of the hall. William is pleased with his excellent decision. Things are finally getting better. The system window pops up again. Since the second option has been successfully completed, the reward appears: the Emperor of Flame Fate. Still, it's not a bad prize for a job well done. David orders the guards to escort these guests. Edward reminds, be sure to take their priceless elixir of purification. Without a word, a more annoyed Georgie turns around and walks away. Now events are unfolding on the backside of the mountain, the abode of the Lord. The main character praises his grandson and holds out an item that will help him. Everything went smoothly, only the Flame Fate Emperor wasn't activated and the guy's stats didn't change. William says it's a secret technique and it will help improve synergy with spiritual roots. But there's a condition. One must persistently improve one's cultivation to activate the gift. Otherwise, similar occurrences might happen again in the future. It's been a whole year already. The main character is still improving his skills and abilities. William seems excited. He seems to notice something strange about Qingyun Mountain. He decided to go there, for rare natural treasures were about to appear. Here's a guy who's already discovered rare treasure. Now he has a choice. The system again offers two of them. The first is to directly seal the entire mountain and appropriate all the treasure. The second is to waste no effort in doing so. The second option presents a high-quality rank 3 magic weapon, and he chooses to use it. It's better to proceed carefully. William uses his magic, so beautiful it seems as if angels have descended from heaven. A golden armor appears on him. It also sticks to his skin and helps him hide. Guy whispers incantations and orders his flying sword to hurry home. It looks like the system is looking for him a lot of problems. He's going to quietly cultivate for now, but all sorts of treasures will still be his. For him, a long life and many descendants is the key to a better and happier future. This is truly important. Here we are already with a new morning and beautiful weather. People on the street are discussing some dazzling purple light. Perhaps it means some treasure. Some are even going to go in search of them. Why not try and change lives? A chance like this comes along once in 100 years. Even No is going to bat for that prize. They even start arguing over who will get there first. In the Sunset City, a wagon can be seen on the backside of the Xiao family's mountain. Some man is pounding the floor hard with his stick. Edward orders his subordinates to get ready and work faster. Toward the backyard, near the practice area, parked that very same horse-drawn wagon. The son came to his father working at his desk. Breaking away from his work, he looks at Edward carefully, ready to listen. It seems the old man has some very important news for him. But why was he in such a big hurry? For starters, it's worth sitting down quietly. An unknown force creates a chair and supports for safety. Even though he is in his 80s, he is still strong, but he needs spiritual energy. Edward talks about the violet glow. There was a rumor that there was a great treasure there. A lot of people went there. He believes their family should be involved in the search as well. Now, when father agrees, he will immediately gather a team and go to Qingyun Mountain. But William asks about something he always repeated to him as a child: to think things through carefully and plan before acting. Therefore, their kind cannot participate under any pretext. They're just ordinary people, and even if they are poverted, it's very easy to run into the rage of the other clans. It is better not to get involved from the beginning, but to observe while the families fight each other and benefit from it without even getting involved in the conflict. The son has his arguments, but since he's so determined, it's not up to him to change his mind. As it has been before, the most important thing is to strengthen the lineage. Other matters should not be interfered with. Here it is 3 days later. At the foot of the Xiao family's mountain, we see William meditating. Looks like someone's on their way to visit the protagonist. But divine knowledge sees only Edward. In a careful move, the guy uses some strange magic. Blue-yellow clouds appear near the old man and surround him on all sides. With the powers he has gained, his father can instantly move him to his place without much thought. The man reports, all the descendants of the families on the mountain were captured by the Sect. They were tortured and completely silenced. Dealing with such an enemy is difficult. He already had some idea of the Qingliang sect, but right now, Xiao's main concern right now was stretching time. Otherwise, all the work done will be wasted. When son Edward has learned his lesson, he goes about his business. 6 months later, the system makes itself known again. As the number of descendants has increased to 400, she offers 2 choices. She seems to want to encourage him to go hunting again, but given the situation, it's not safe to go. So he chooses stability and development, avoiding major conflicts where the reward is one low-level spiritual vein. Now, all the MU has to do now is to place it on an ordinary mountain, then it will form spiritual streams underground. He decides to send her to the Qiao family's local mountain, and the operation is successful. The spiritual aura nailed down is incredibly rich, even almost mystical. He should take advantage of this soon and start cultivating in seclusion. Now the events are taking place on Qingyun Mountain. Some sounds can be heard from there. We see just sitting people watching the meat grinder of kin. Kinglian sect elder Oswald says there are many slothful slackers among them. If any of them are idle, they will meet the same fate. Unexpectedly, a strong spiritual aura appears nearby. But the uncle wasn't the least bit confused and jumped up with a sharp movement. climbing up a tree for reconnaissance, one could confidently say that intense fluctuations of spiritual power were coming from the Xiao family mountain. Oswald orders further supervision to ensure that the young laborers from various families continue to search for the treasure. And he in turn will go to the back and check everything out. The closer the uncle runs, the stronger the fluctuations become. He has to contain his excitement and mask his aura. The system detected and warned of the approach of an uninvited guest who disturbed the gentleman's peace. He's again given a choice where he can either kill or go for a friendly contract, but he's not going to rush his answer. Here, Oswald had finally reached the Xiao family's mountain. After a quick investigation, he found no signs of a strong cultivator. But unexpectedly, he notices the aura of a low-level spiritual vein. If the sect master finds out about this, then surely the uncle will promote his rank and possibly reach the golden core? This should be reported immediately. Except that a copy of the protagonist appears out of nowhere, so where was the guest going to go? Oswald is very surprised. Did someone really manage to elude his detection? He apologizes for his behavior and asks to come out and show himself. William introduces himself as Noah. Coming up with a name on the fly wasn't that hard. The uncle assumes that the man standing opposite is stronger than he is, but not by much, in which case, Oswald decides to distract Noah and kill him, thus getting the vein. As an apology, he offers a high-level elixir for wellness. And Emu should also come to Kingly and Sect as the master of this place and establish a good relationship with them. Every time a man sees a goal, he is overwhelmed by greed. Noah acknowledges the rightness and says it is indeed a misunderstanding. Oswald thinks that his cultivation isn't too advanced and taking advantage of his unpreparedness is a great idea. After all, tells the protagonist that it's time for him to go, and for 3 days he can visit the sect. Still, William is going to get rid of this man finally. The uninvited guest develops greed and bloodlust. Well, to win, you have to hit first and hit hard. The guy flies high into the air and swings his golden blade. Though Oswald notices the sudden appearance of something powerful, he has no time to react. His heart inexplicably hammered, warning of imminent danger. His mouth is starting to bleed. It looks like the punch flew right on target. A black hole had truly formed in his heart. It was hard to believe such a thing. He didn't expect that the one really could attack him and reveal the plan. The protagonist immediately guessed the scoundrel's intentions. To prolong the time, Oswald asks how the man found out about it. Uncle is trying his best to apologize. He's an elder. There's no way he should be killed. And even if one does, one can expect no mercy from the sect. The desire to kill Oswald keeps getting higher and higher. The protagonist draws his sword from his chest and raises it high up, after which he swings in with force, ready to finally finish the man off. The aura is so ferocious that it resembles the moat of a wild dragon. William makes a horizontal cut from which incredible energy emanates. Many emotions appear in the scoundrel's eyes: fear, sadness, pain. Here comes the end. The man's head is now severed. It's just a headless corpse. At the end, he slights his sword. He has completed the task and obtained a high-quality level 3 treasure, the fairy hat. Even though he didn't choose the assignment, the system itself determined the choice and gave the reward. There was some small and weird bell at the beginning, but got bigger right after that. A little later, it turned into a huge thing with energy bursting out of it. Looks like this thing is simply perfect for everyday use. You can't find a better item for a killer. The system notifies the scrutinized Oswald storage bag, but he only found a handful of spirit stones and some ordinary elixirs. 3 months later, Edward heads back to his progenitor's house. As he approaches the manor, he hears words of approval and is able to enter. Grandpa is about to gently open the door, but she does it herself. Proudly sitting on a chair, William asks why he came here and what he wants. The old man turns to his mighty father with reverence. He says that in all this time, no one has been able to discover the treasure and the Qinglian sect is losing patience. This morning, the last immortal belonging to the sect left. It seems fate did not favor them in their search for those divine treasures. Now that there was no one left there, one must try and strengthen the Chiao family. Edward has no choice but to listen and obey. He's going to go and inform all the young and strong people. The protagonist stares at his son as he walks away, but a notification from the system appears. Due to his spiritual roots reaching 50, he is rewarded. That's 60 years of cultivation, 10,000 low-level stones, and a new heavenly and ordinary Tao field function. The bonus of this spell is an increase in energy concentration by 10 times and cultivation speed by 2 times. With this ability, he can keep an eye on what's going on throughout the area. It all sounds like a secret paradise. Now, his cultivation had also advanced to the 6th level of the Golden Core. There are 2 options: The first is to capture the spirit and absorb it. The second is to take it as a disciple. It turns out to be a spirit that absorbed the essence of the sun and moon over many years, containing the essence of plants and trees. Apparently, the Qinglian sect had been looking for him so hard. Thanks to his strength, he found this monster with ease. William thinks that just absorbing would be a waste, and the best option is to absorb. The protagonist moves lightning fast throughout the area. On the backside of the mountain, where the heaven and earth field of the tower was utilized, a satisfied child is shown. He says the energy here is very rich. But his fun is interrupted by someone's voice from behind. What they want here? It was William. The toddler immediately ran away quickly. He with this escape technique can come and go quietly without a trace. Since the spiritual energy within the field is most concentrated, it benefits the field and the spiritual veins the most. It is so strong that it beckons similar precious spirits to her. With his magic, William conjures an ash circle that looks like a portal. This energy completely surrounds the unknown boy. The protagonist teleports the baby right into his arms. He was very frightened because he saw him as a real immortal. The little boy looks tearfully at his captor. But the protagonist is not going to harm him and directly says it to his face. Now his eyes look more enthusiastic and even with some admiration. William gently lifts the boy up. Compared to his hands, he looks very small. The guy's very happy with the work he's done. In his arms, he gently strokes the baby's smooth head. After he has calmed the toddler down, he asks if he wants to be an apprentice. In the beginning, the boy doesn't really know what the story is about. But William continues, if he becomes one, he will be able to walk freely in the mountains and not fear danger. The protagonist asks how he feels about such an interesting idea. Cultivating immortality is simply an incredible opportunity. He bows on his hand and calls William master. Since the task was successfully completed, the guy is rewarded with 6 longevity pills and 9 steps of heaven-level techniques. William is very pleased with this excellent outcome of events. Since he's reincarnated after thousands of years, he gives him the name Anton. Now, in honor of such an occasion, the guy wants to give him a welcome gift. He must teach Anton the technique of the 9 transformations of the divine arts. Except the little guy has no idea what it really is. But it won't be long before he finds out. He just needs to relax his mind. And then suddenly there's some kind of shine, a glow. Strange runes form on the back of the baby. They are everywhere. William asks if he feels the scriptures deeply within him. The next day, the protagonist decides to teach Anton how to write. Only suddenly his gaze changes and becomes more serious. It looks like David, Ego's precious great-grandson, has come to the protagonist. He garishly walks through the door, but what brings him here? The young man approaches the elder and notifies him that he wants to go on a journey. Finding your own opportunities often involves its own real adventure. The protagonist is in complete confusion from such an unexpected decision. A system window appears, offering to release or forcibly keep you locked up, each offering their own rewards. William ponders his choice for a while. David looks hopefully at his progenitor, waiting for an answer. The protagonist has made up his mind. He lets him go and gives him free rein. Every stone is tempered, but the most important thing is not to forget about safety and your homeland. David's eyes show genuine gratitude and happiness. He bows before the master. He has been allowed to fulfill his dream. Unfortunately or fortunately, all chicks grow up and become adults at some point. So on his way, the elder decides to give him the magical weapon, the Azure Dragon Sword, that he got from this mission. It's a high-end rank 3 weapon. He should use it on his lonely path. David gladly takes the blade in his hands. It is a great honor to receive such a gift. That's it. Since the chapter door was closed, he has no choice but to leave. There's no way he can disappoint the wise elder now. Because of his strength, he sees his great-grandson leaving without hesitation. He can only wait and hope for the welfare of his family members. There is nothing else he can do. It's been a few months now. Everything is still as it was before. And the system window reappeared, notifying about the successful acceleration of David's cultivation. He's already reached level 3, who is so special helped accelerate his progress, very much like cheating. We see a young man training in some rock. He is diligently honing his skills. But suddenly, the ring on my hand starts to glow and release energy. Looks like it can talk and there's someone imprisoned in there. Turns out the guy feeds him spiritual energy that helps him get stronger and stronger. However, if the one agreed to become a disciple of the ring, he would definitely be able to pass on all the knowledge to him. Daniel agrees. He has nothing to lose and the subject is very pleased. The red-eyed young man puts the ring back on that came off. Time went by very fast. Even children grow up. 5 years later, and their strength is much bigger and more powerful. Another 5 years later, near Qingyun Mountain, Qinglian Sect. There is some strange man in there. Is he meditating? It's that legendary head, John Kingshan. The mountain is surrounded by a huge buildup of energy, similar to the clots of a thunderstorm. Her center is right where people are pointing. The entire area is surrounded by his aura. It's very powerful. Looks like it's a divine test. The chapter is about to move to the next level of gold core. Now people need to get out of there as fast as possible. But it was already too late. The cultivation of the new level was almost complete. The fleeing crowd can't take their eyes off such power. Here, some strange bell appears in the man's hand. All the spiritual energy of heaven and earth flowed rapidly into his body, his energy growing indomitably. Here he had finally reached the peak of the Zloty core and passed the divine test. On the morning he goes downstairs, the procedure is completely over. Qinglian Sect's Dongfeng sparring ground. Subordinates congratulate their master on gaining a new level. Even Linda is there, and she also follows their example. Seeing her, he asks about traveling to Qiao's family to break the engagement. Not so good memories of that day pop up in the girl's mind. In response, Linda says she made a 10-year pact with that mortal. He's a very unassuming man and lives in a very different world. In the mountains belonging to the Xiao family, the weather is very good and the sky is clear. In the intervening time, more than a decade, the number of descendants has grown to 1,000. Because of this, he is rewarded with a fruit tree sapling. Now it has been retrieved, the protagonist summons divine consciousness. Anton has grown a lot during this time and has become more masculine. Because of his origins, his innate talents are simply astounding in every performance. Therefore, it is developing very rapidly and increasing its strength. Edward hands over a fruit tree sapling and asks to plant it in the yard. The young man obediently complies with the request and carefully does his work. The protagonist in a long time wants to see the current state of the Xiao family. By the window of the system, his family is thriving, and he is very happy about it. Flashbacks. It's been a long time since he had a goatee. The spirit quickly planted itself. We must return to the chambers and continue cultivating. William's rest is interrupted by a message from the system. The time has come for the fulfillment of the 10-year covenant of David's great-grandson. Surviving in such a vast world is quite an achievement, but he has to make a choice again. Help win the contest or play by the rules and believe in David's strength. He has made significant progress, and in that case, William should choose the second option, and the reward is supernatural skill, sword approach. These two would fight on the sparring ground of the Qinglian Sect. A proud and disgruntled girl enters the stage with a sword. David in turn represents himself. During this time, he has grown into a strong and fair man. The crowd watches him closely and murmurs amongst themselves. But Linda tells him not to be under any illusions. The sect's honor will remain spotlessly pure. The insolent girl, confident of her victory, pounces on the young man. She promises that one will die and uses the split heaven technique. David continues to stand motionless in his seat, unafraid. He easily deflects the girl's strong kick. Foundation creation, level 6. The person she had a bad opinion of came back with the same level as her. The young man says that even the Qinglian sect has such mediocrities. Since that's the case, she should get what she deserves. The guy reads the spell. With his energy, he creates a huge blue dragon. It was the aura of the 9 swords merging in the air, forming an azure beast with 5 claws. Except she's a junior master and she can't lose face. She will not be deterred now. The technique of split skies. When 2 forces collide, there are 2 explosions. But standing on his feet remains David, the real winner. He retracts his power with a normal finger movement. Only the remnants of the rolling thunder can be seen. In a 10-year agreement, Linda infamously lost. For the first time in her life, she felt fear and even begged for mercy. Only the guy wasn't going to kill her from the start, so he just walked away. Everything that had happened over the years to David, the girl could never fathom. She dropped 2 tears, not realizing if she was sorry or ashamed. But the members of the sect are not going to let the young man go so easily because their reputation will fall to nothing. Even though David didn't mean to kill, someone is inciting him to do it. Before acting, the guy quickly assesses the whole situation. There is an elder among them, and the weakest ones are the 6th. He had just finished a fierce fight, and the energy was almost completely depleted. And now he would have to fight 10 opponents, little by little losing all position. Suddenly the ring helps him and gives the young man strength. Because of this, David's cultivation quickly skyrocketed. He had fasted to the middle of the development of the golden core path. The kid outpaced many in strength, but such a quick boost has its side effects. It's the master's blessing. You can't miss such a chance. The azure dragon lashes out and surrounds many opponents. He, through force, unleashed 9 flying dragon strikes, body burning terrifyingly. All the elders went into the air. This was the last chance to escape. Except he didn't have any more strength left. The pressure was too much. This makes David start coughing up blood. What will happen next? That same elder appears. He too claims that the sect's honor should not be tarnished. The man orders him to get on his knees and apologize, then he will stay alive. Was the 10-year contract nothing more than a joke? Regardless of the outcome, the guy is not destined to leave this place? David wipes the blood from his face. He doesn't look like he's going to comply with stupid requests. Then the elder would only have to stop him himself. He's really stubborn, that's all I can say. John releases a beam of green energy from his hand. David simply stands still, unable to resist such power. Suddenly he hears the voice of the ring again, asking him to give him the body. It's only temporary. He won't let his apprentice die for nothing. It's going to be okay. The guy's going to have to take a little nap. But next time he's going to have to rely only on himself. The young man's gaze immediately changes and becomes more aggressive. Here the magic should have reached its goal by now. The hovering man doesn't understand what's wrong. Where did he disappear to? The head thinks it's thanks to a secret technique, although he felt the disappearance. But where he vaporized to, he doesn't know. John then orders to find the elders and send them to kill every single person from the Chiao family. A small group of men had formed. They were ready to depart. The green lines were quickly heading into enemy lands. On the other side of the mountain, some kind of light can be seen in the cave. There David settled down, determined to regain his strength. Master's voice has not appeared since then. He is very worried about it. Just a few days later, the mountains belonging to Chiao were enveloped by unnatural lightning. The protagonist is not happy with this turn of events. Today is the time to reach the stage of soul budding. Strong whirlpools of different energies appear and surround the protagonist. After that hole gets even bigger and the lightning becomes more powerful. There were orders that no one from the family was allowed to go near that area and that they should go to a safe place as soon as possible. William controls a huge stream coming out of the sky. He destroys everything in his path, leaving no opponent behind. The protagonist is overjoyed and marvels at his power. The lightning bolt hits William standing there. Did he do it on purpose? Something strange happens in the clot of energy. It starts to crack, after which it turns bright red and William's silhouette can be seen inside. Events continue half an hour later. It's like the bad weather never happened. One family member says it was just a normal, severe thunderstorm and everyone should go back to their homes. Edward hesitates. He probably either knew or suspected everything. The main character came down to the site. He's not damaged in the slightest. Even his clothes look like new. He can finally relax and recuperate a bit. William seems to have successfully entered the soul nucleation stage. Anton runs to his foreman and asks if everything is okay. To which he receives an affirmative answer. The thunderous ordeal of soul nucleation was nothing to it. He then congratulates his master on his new stage and wishes him continued prosperity. The master and apprentice pair off to practice their skills. William looks at the system. He is happy with his results. He was once a mortal, worrying about birth, aging, disease, and death. But now his life expectancy is thousands of years. The system window reveals kingly and sect disciples who have entered his family's land. 2 choices again. One is to punish the impertinence, the other is to watch the further development of events. If N wants stability, it's worth choosing the latter. But that way, the Xiao family will just disappear. What's the point then? Then, the protagonist decides to choose the first option. For this, he will receive the highest treasure of the 5th rank. He gets all the scumbags and information about them. William says that they are a bunch of underdogs consisting of 10 people, and the strongest of them is only at the 8th level of cultivation. An enemy beam flew in right next to Anton. It was aimed at the head. The spirit seed was surprised. In a good way, his master became even faster. A surge of large amounts of black and purple energy forms from the manor. The elders must not allow David to return home prepared, so they need to finish off everyone here. One of them, most likely the main one, orders to leave no one within a 100-meter radius. That seems to have been the second elder's plan, even though the first one said so. William appears behind the graves and says he didn't expect them to be so cunning and devious. All the people who came from the sect are shocked by this turn of events. If that's the case, the protagonist won't let them leave here quietly. But the elders resent who he thinks he is. Their head is a powerful man who can wipe out the world. Several people pounce on William at once. One of the elders already sees his victory and says he thought he was a more formidable opponent. But you can't be 100% sure of everything. The protagonist stands proudly in place while his opponents fly off one by one. The remaining people wondered where the hovering swords came from. Was it really an ambush? The subordinate asks the elder to retreat soon. Suddenly, the leader's face goes gnarled and drops of blood protrude on his face. There are so many daggers flying from above that it's impossible to count. William called this technique the swift sword. The elder tries to run away with all their legs. They've definitely never seen such power. Lastly, he yells that the main thing to convey to the chapter is that this man is invulnerable and they can't beat him. Except that message isn't going to get through to him because the protagonist isn't going to let them go so easily. Black drops of blood are flying everywhere. Everyone is dead now. The system congratulates you on your victory and grants you the sword of azure clouds. There are incredible golden brown-colored weapons coming out of the window. William now has a first-class weapon, and the spirit blade can be retired. That's it. The main character takes off into the air and is about to go back to his place. A few days later, there is a meeting in the Qingliang sect. There were a lot of people gathered there, and in the middle sat that very head. John is very displeased who dared to kill his elders. It seems Yao can't be underestimated. The subordinates can only stare at the floor, unable to contain their master's anger. Now the head must go and find out who this mysterious mastermind is. Cozy, warm atmosphere, so also a lovely smell oozes from the censer. The protagonist keeps cultivating further and further. It feels like he has nothing else to do. But it's twice as effective. It's really amazing. With a positivity of 1,500 years, he will be able to support his family for many generations. His little soul begins to rapidly rise to the top. From this distance, you can see absolutely everything that goes on in the village. Burning streetlights, babies being born, and even how they grow up. Suddenly, William's face changes and becomes more irritated. There among his people is a gold core world cultivator. When a man asks to show information about him, the system will have no problem doing so. It seems the protagonist had no idea who was now taking the master's place. If a cultivator wreaks havoc in the family, it will be all over for him. The difference in their strength is significant. You can't let him leave alive. After all, dead people don't bring trouble on anyone's head. The old man thinks this residence is more like a small town. Apparently, John needs to take a thorough look around. A huge portal appears in the sky and welcomes the cultivator. He in turn stops to consider the whole situation. Surprisingly, he is not frightened and remains calm. But after what he has seen, it is impossible to underestimate Xiao. John apologizes for his rudeness and for stepping into someone else's territory. After that, he will forgive with all honor to meet the gentleman in person. But there's no mercy. Those who come in here always die. He will make only one exception in honor of such a guest. The tea on the table has just been poured, and there is a beautiful view from the door. John moves quickly through the air through the rocks of the mountains. He has arrived, and in honor of this, he greets the head of the other clan. William introduces himself as the ancestral elder of the Xiao family and asks to be seated. Since the man is already dying little by little, there's no point in tearing anything down anymore. John mentions a pact made 10 years ago. It resulted in his favorite student being crippled, and all because of David. A thirst for blood, appears in this man's eyes. Even though William knows this, his face remains unperturbed. Forest words continue from the head of the sect. With them, the man wants to distract the interlocutor. Except it's too much. The increase in the desire to kill keeps going on and on and on. The protagonist's patience is out. The villain will pay for everything and get a small golden statue in his grave. The cup that was in his hand cracked. Before he dies, William decides to show the man beautiful specimens of different works of art. John thinks about it. He has contacts with major clans from various regions, but no one still knows his lineage. And the protagonist in turn is modest and says that he is only a humble villager and cultivation has only reached the 2nd level. The man only half believes his words, but other than David has no power in the family. John says he has one more place to visit, so he dares no more distractions. William mentions the name John and wishes him a safe adventure. Now a sense of danger begins to dawn in the man. He has been exposed. The protagonist uses the very same swift sword technique. This is the cultivation of the first stage of the fiery soul. Dozens of arrows pierce the sect head one after another. He planned to ambush the others, but ended up getting caught himself. William, not losing his cool, conducts a powerful series of attacks there is no chance to survive. A fragment of the Dark Souls Hall Elder Thomas used to control emerges from the pool of blood. William had never heard such a place and had never heard such a name. But it doesn't matter much, so that puppet counts as an enemy too. Ghost asks who he is, since he dares to get rid of their pawn. With a smile, he swings around and says his father. The system notifies the new acquaintance of hate. Events are now unfolding at the headquarters of the Dark Souls Hall. That's where the man sitting in a trance settled down. But suddenly he feels a sharp pain. His soul has been wounded. Hands from the power of the beholder begin to tremble. The man promises to kill him, skin him alive, cut off his muscles, and then turn him into mincemeat. And at the very end, will extract the soul and burn it day and night in a blazing furnace, not allowing it to die. But we can't forget the Master's master plan, so we'll have to hold our anger for now. Once the Master's plan succeeds, the hour of reckoning will come. A few days later, everyone in Kinglian's sect is worried about the missing Master. The sect no longer had a leader, and every disciple was on pins and needles. Even the elders had been killed. Only Linda knows something Master John went to the Xiao family. She remembers David. Unfortunately, there is no cure for regret. Because of all the events, the girl sat up overnight, and even her firm Dao heart was scattered to pieces, all because they were acting too overbearing. Some disciples secretly took possession of the resources and silently left the place. The remaining ones were immersed in personal contemplation. Soon, there would be nothing left. A few days later, the sect announced its final dissolution. The rumor has reached the other clans, and they are discussing the events. It was very hard to believe, after all. It was a powerful sect. Who could bring it down to the ground? Mount Xiao is still as prosperous as before. Edward was very out of breath on the way upstairs. Old age was taking its toll. William's magic carries him to his place, so what brings him here? The son tells his father that they have finally taken a big step. The troubles are over. Well, the Master knows everything, because he's the one who got rid of her. Edward goes into shock. It was unexpected that this could be settled so easily. William orders to gather all the descendants with spiritual root and take them to the mountains to teach them heavenly techniques. Now the subordinate could depart, while the one well-revenged would continue to cultivate. Edward wants to quickly complete all the tasks his father has given him. The events take place a couple hundred kilometers away from Qingyuan Mountain. Just a month of rehab paired with various elixirs, and most wounds are as good as gone. At the foot of the Sect's mountain, we meet David. He learns that the sect has been destroyed, but it happened quite some time ago. The guy asks his master where they're going next. This is Qianxing Tower, he heard the old man memorializing that place. This is first-class power. No one can match it. 5 years later, the number of descendants in the Xiao family exceeded 2,000. For this, the system gives him a reward. A first-rate magic treasure of rank, 4 Cloud Chaser shoes. William is in a bit of a state of bewilderment. He didn't realize his family had grown so large. That very treasure has appeared. They glow a pleasant blue color. As soon as the man put them on, they disappeared as if they had never been. After a small trial, his speed doubled. In 5 years, the entire Qingyuan Mountain became owned. Even Sunset City became the family base. Over the years, every disciple with strength had entered the path of cultivating immortality. Thus, they had come to dominate the region. William decides to watch the harmony and prosperity of the family in the system. It brings up a lot of information for the past 130 years of life. In his long lifespan, he realized that a comfortable life was the best way to live. He hasn't seen David in a long time, so he decides to look up his status as well. The patron is satisfied that one has reached the golden core stage, truly a gifted child. Suddenly he notices something. His eldest son Edward has successfully reached the foundation building phase. To be sure, you have to embrace the whole family with a divine sense. The man finds him walking near a small gazebo. Suddenly he is transported to another place again. He still doesn't seem to be used to it. William appears in the chair next to him. Edward asks why his father summoned him to his house. It seems like his son had really taken the path of cultivation. Not only that, he now looks healthier and younger than before. William even wants to teach cultivation techniques, so we'll have to push on in the future. Edward can't wait. He never thought he could one day become a legendary mortal. The patron are in solitude, again advancing their abilities. But then a message from the system appears. It has detected an ascended one. He has a choice to make. First option, take him as an apprentice. Second option, because of the unknown and possible danger, ignore him. There is a reward for apprenticeship, and it sounds very tempting. However, it is worth being wary. Watch him. He needs to expand his divine sense to encompass the entire mountain. There he is, what looks like an ordinary, unremarkable kid. Using his powers, William carries him to his place. The unidentified man is at a loss as to what is going on. Progenitor promises no harm, so there is no need to worry. The young man hesitates and cautiously asks who he is. William introduces himself as the founder of the Qiao family and asks if he would like to be his apprentice. The guy's not really sure. What's the point? What's he getting out of it? The man promises not to let him go empty-handed and guide him on the path of cultivating immortality. Even though the young man didn't understand anything, it sounded really cool. He gets on his knees and hails him as master. William has fulfilled the terms of the system. The progenitor asks if his new disciple has a name, but receives only a negative answer. Then the master decides to give him the name Jack. The boy is very grateful. He is honored. His spiritual root is of the 8th level. He truly deserves the title of an ascended one. William summons Anton. Now the training of John's cultivation rests on his shoulders. Some man is enveloped by a strange red lightning bolt. It seems to be the mysterious head. Subordinates congratulate on moving to the first stage of the fiery soul. He should take a pill to heal the wounds he received in the trial of heaven. Now that he had comprehended the first step of the fiery soul, it's time for the Ming kingdom to change its ruler. All the servants are ready to go after him and believe in victory, believing the whole decision to be the right one. The patron orders to gather all the students and activate the hidden powers with them, only to act quickly. A subordinate reports that the Paradise Star Tower is back in action, but they're just a pack of psychers and can be wiped out with the snap of a finger. The servant apologizes for his behavior. He made up too much. The annoyed man turns around and just flies away. Again, it had been 5 years since the Dark Soul Hall had deployed its company to get rid of all the powerful families. Over the years, William had reached the 6th stage of fiery soul cultivation, and that clan hadn't reached them because of the remote location. Anton mentors the Xiao descendants who have spiritual roots, and now most of them have entered the foundation stage. As a reward, he gives the students pills that have accumulated for various errands from the system. Descendants with spiritual roots can't help but bring a smile to the old man's face. After all, they are the future foundation of Xiao. Edward appears from behind, who was in a great hurry to see his progenitor. He had already reached the 4th stage of cultivation and brought very important news. The head asks not to be in a hurry. It is better to have a nice cup of hot tea first. The Hall in Dark Souls has already destroyed many sects. Now they are all united and ready to face evil together. This clan brings a lot of trouble and unhappiness. First, David was chased by Jack, and now Dark Souls are targeting everyone in the country. Demonic sects can't be trusted. William thinks it's better to avoid unnecessary trouble and focus on the safety of posterity. After Edward's report, it's hard for him not to worry about David. He's likely to run into them. Looks like the great-grandson had successfully reached the 4th level of gold core cultivation. With this kind of pumping, he can safely travel the world and not worry. Also, his spiritual root had increased to the 5th level. Moreover, the little guy had mastered a perfect divine technique. Unread messages are displayed on the system screen. It seems David kills the novices of the Hall of Dark Souls and manages to get away with it every time. This is impressive. He even killed their elders. The Jiao children are truly special. David's speed was well beyond his expectations. The sword becomes sharper from sharpening, and the plum blossoms scent from the cold that has been transferred. A few months later, a descendant with the potential for great reincarnation came into the family. As a reward, he is given the path of the tea tree of initiation. It is a natural spiritual root that absorbs the essence of the moon and sun, has the effect of concentration, and for some time improves talents. The name alone makes it clear that it is similar in origin to the ginseng fruit tree, and having seen so many benefits, there was interest. William is very surprised. It seems Jack has achieved the only stage of the great reincarnation. He asks the system getting memories from his past life if he will be a threat to Xiao. But she answers, all of Jack's actions, characteristics and emotions are consistent with those inherent in all descendants. We can sleep easy. That's exactly what he wanted to hear. Through a divine sense, he calls Jack to himself. He asks the master why he wanted to see him. The one in turn shows in his hands the tea tree path of enlightenment. William says plant it in the yard. In the future, people will exercise under it and increase their strength. Jack obeys the master and immediately sets out to accomplish the tasks. In the courtyard, Edward is also doing his job. Looks like he received a divine message from his father. One should take care of Xiao Jack and take him to the mountains for training a little later. Having passed on the message, William has yet to warn Anton about the new apprentice. Having been told all the details, the man can breathe a sigh of relief. After another 5 years, he continues to work on himself and his advancement. He gathers energy near his stomach, the waves gathering into a small circle. Suddenly, the spiritual energy of this place suddenly rushed in a flood into William's body. During this time, he had successfully passed 3 cultivation levels. Everything was going faster than expected and quite bearable. In the courtyard around the tree, there were many people gathered meditating. From far away, you can see how much the 2 trees have grown, but ginseng is much larger than the other. The main character goes inside, and on the branch below him is a fruit that looks very much like a person. The servants greet their old progenitor. Since they work hard, The reward should be commensurate. All the elixirs from the system are of very good quality, but he has no use for them and would rather give them to his descendants. The subordinates are grateful for William's kindness, and he in turn can't hold back a smile. There's someone approaching him with a very quick stride. It's Edward. It looks like something incredibly big has happened. William is puzzled and asks what is the matter. It seems to be related to the Hall of Dark Souls, so that's why he was so worried. He felt himself sinking into darkness, and when he came to his senses, he saw across from his father, "I'm trying." Edward assures the patron that the power of the Dark Souls is too great. If all the sects have united, it will definitely not be possible to defeat them alone. Most of the Ming Kingdom's territory had fallen, corpses everywhere, just like hell. Gramps assures you to engage in an open dialogue with the Hall of Dark Souls. This will help slow the rate of expansion of their domain. The head says to act quickly and promises to support his offspring, though the opponents are many, but they are not a slip of the tongue either. William asks about Lord Cultivation, but no one has figured that out yet. The progenitor understood everything and now sends his son to rest. Toward the end, saying that if people from the hall are discovered, to inform him immediately. The man ponders, "Isn't the master of the Tower of the Star of Paradise Tower David? It's worth looking at all the information." His destiny seems to be destined for him to become a flame emperor, and he has also reached the 7th level. He's been battling the Dark Hall for years, each time as if he's playing with his life. But it does do some good. It's better that way than caring for him and nurturing him. William's cultivation base is in the Yuanying period, but not yet fully refined. It's time for him to move on. He moves to a cave that is usually used for seclusion and cultivation. The protagonist warns Edward that it's time to start doing the impossible, and the only way to wake him up is to attack him. Strange runes appear around the patron and begin to glow. He calls upon the spirit of nature, the violet energy. It accumulates near his chest, William, greedily consuming it. The protagonist is very focused on this case. More than a year has passed, and behind the Xiao family's mountain, something strange is happening. The clouds begin to thicken, and the lightning gets stronger and stronger. Looks like it's a master case. He's finally made a breakthrough. We need to open a teleportation system to keep everyone safe and move them hundreds of miles away. Here we see the protagonist standing in front of the lightning bolt. Either sad or serious, he asks, "Is this really the grief of the gods?" A natural phenomenon is headed straight for William. But it's not a problem for him. He can easily block the attack with his magic hand. All people watch it from afar with admiration and experience. Anton thinks about how powerful the master is. They have nothing to fear. The first movement of the god's tribulation didn't do any damage, and as for the lightning bolts, he wasn't going to avoid them. Power flows into every part of the protagonist's body. Some people don't realize what's going on. Everything looks so strange. That's it. Cultivation is almost complete. William looks even more powerful than before. He cautiously descends to the edge of the roof and surveys his domain. Yuanying divine consciousness is able to penetrate the Qingyun mountain, spread over tens of thousands of kilometers. Strong people during your incarnation period are able to control 3/3 of the power of heaven and earth. It's worth checking it out. The protagonist feels this power and becomes calmer at heart, even though he does nothing. After that, a system window suddenly appears and gives him a Pointing to the Sky award for a job well done. Since this is a new ability, it should definitely be tried out. He is transported to the cultivation room that is behind the mountain. To find out more information, he taps the screen. The system responds that it can acquire its own form and also detect the blood of offspring, a possible use at a distance. Because of this, his people will be able to use the new abilities. It's a very powerful force. The clouds of grief have dissipated, and now people can go home. Now it's time for William to check out his stats and changes. Incredibly, the protagonist's life extended to 5,000 years. And the divine transformation of the first layer creates a special sense of security. For another 3 months, he improved his cultivation outside of the mountain family. You can see how the main character is tortured. He should rest for a while. But the result is visible. The spreading of divine realization is going on successfully. There are so many descendants with spiritual roots. Just when something happened and an aberration was detected, a stranger appeared. The protagonist decides to investigate all the information about these people. These are the followers of the Dark Soul Hall. There are more than 20 of them. William is not pleased with the arrival of such guests. They will pay for setting foot in his territory. The attack has already happened. Some have even been killed. Terror lurks in people's hearts. Progenitor didn't expect them to start acting now. He can't hide, then intends to destroy everyone. Time to use his new skills and lock everyone in the Xiao family city. The protagonist moves the crowd right to his estate. A large hand loomed over the followers of the Dark Souls. All of them must die, blood spatters flying everywhere. There was nothing left of the 20 men. Even the souls were mottled. But we should check to see if William had missed anyone. There are no more Grebes left within the family, so he summons Edward. He reports the infiltration of the Hall of Dark Souls into the city to his son. The one in turn is very surprised, since he was the one who took care of security. Edward promises to personally take the lead in catching these men. They will not get away. But the protagonist asks not to worry because he has already dealt with everyone. Grandpa is now sure that his father's power is much higher than the Lord of the Hall of Dark Souls. With a Lord, the family would not be in danger. Even the strongest in the world would be of no concern to him. But William wants to be more restrained and calm down a bit. If they have to travel outside the city, the Xiao family also needs to be protected. Edward understands everything perfectly well, so you have to remember to do everything secretly. The two of them move, with only the circle remaining in place. This is the cultivation room. William will continue to study here. The protagonist warns that he will visit them every 3 months, and the son's job is to come and report the situation every month. A year later, in the cultivation room outside the mountain, the progenitor receives a message from the system saying that David is pursuing the Lord of the Hall of Dark Souls for the purpose of assassination. The first scenario, help the offspring with the murder. The second, leave it to chance. Killing the Lord is a very tempting proposition and a great opportunity for revenge. For this, he receives a 4th-level magical weapon, a stick that tames demons. A fierce battle is taking place in the capital of the Ming Kingdom. A golden dragon and an unknown purple aura clash with each other. In the beginning, it seems like the dragon is crowding that creature. But it takes a leap, and David loses his concentration. What is he to do? How can he shake off the doom? The sect he led was originally one of the most outstanding sects, but by attacking, he didn't expect the Lord to be there. Not too long ago, he was approached by an old evil demon in the Hall of Dark Souls who warned him that there was nowhere else to run. Things aren't going well for him, so he decides to make a quick getaway. But John Doe isn't going to leave him that easily. You have to keep your distance. The attack is hitting huge areas. David doesn't have time to run far. The ring reminds him of a talisman, but it takes some time to use it. He has no choice but to try to apprehend him. Best not to get distracted after all. If he made a mistake, he'd die. David is warned that the one who is chasing him is the Lord's aide. The man in the oil can't wait to mess with him. He promises to make him his new toy. The Lord watches them from afar. It turns out he has almost reached the Yuanying stage. The unknown man keeps up and warns him that he'll find him anywhere. The man has no patience. He wants to devour the guy as soon as possible. The follower turns up the heat and says that their men have already sneaked into his town. As they talk, only corpses remain of the Chiao family. David doesn't believe such a thing. How can he speak of such a thing so easily? Send his minions to his kin. He'll do everything he can to make sure he doesn't get anything. The masked man says whoever catches the youngster will be well rewarded. He was afraid that David would take the golden pill. Then there would be no way to catch him. But all was not yet lost. The guy can easily take out a crowd of opponents. But there turns out to be too many of them, so they manage to surround him. He tries with his last strength to fight his way through his enemies. To do so, the young man swings in, blue energy surrounding him, after which a mighty blue dragon comes out. The masked man recognizes David's great strength. He's really not bad. The two auras collide with each other and beat flush. The unknown person sacrificed a level 3 medium magic weapon to obtain the power of Confrontation Blast. But still he realizes that the young man is no match for him. There is a huge gulf between them. David also takes a medicine that helps his wounds heal faster. The man doesn't know if he can win, so he decides to run away. But the guy's not going to let him off that easy. The masked followers order the servants to detain him. The Overlord is disappointed by this turn of events. Similar, he will have to act on his own. He applies some strange energy and channels it into the orb. Dark red waves headed straight for David and the subordinates. From there, a man appears as if walking across the sky. In his hands, he holds a sword with a red hilt that looks like a demonic sword. It's the Lord who says it's the end for the guy. Before he arrives, his subordinates must apprehend him. The guy feels tremendous strength, gloriously plunging into the sea filled with blood. Looks like he won't be rewarded until the next life. Time to take action. David senses mortal danger. Heaven and earth are being overrun by demons. It looks like he's going to have to break a promise he didn't make. The master tells his follower that he has passed on all the knowledge. There is nothing else left. Well, that's why it's time to deal with this nuisance too. Now the Lord understands why David is so knowledgeable about the Hall of Dark Souls. The demon can take the master's soul, but then you have to free his follower. The master promises to do his best to have his soul destroyed. The kid can't believe it. Is his precious mentor really going to die? But Grandpa just keeps on keeping quiet. Does he have nothing to say? A servant warns the Lord that they must not be allowed to leave, or they will all be killed. Time for the demon to get more serious and take matters into his own hands. Looks like the ring name is Charlie, and he managed to escape last time. But things will be different now. There's a huge wave of energy around him, like an explosion. This is the power of the Yuan Ying realm, and even a young man would find it hard to resist such might. The guy starts bleeding from his mouth. The foreman, of course, notices it. To give time, he decides to use his last strength. David stabs his sword into the ground, and Charlie in turn is perplexed. The guy isn't going anywhere. They'll either survive or die together. He builds up the strength within, preparing himself for the next wave of battle. Well, as long as he's ready, the head doesn't mind having some fun. Like a whip, the demon releases a large beam of energy. It turns into a multitude of sharp bodies and heads straight for the designated target. David is using his secret technique at this point. Many lightning bolts appear and fly in different directions. Its gases shone with a golden light, even the shards of stones rose into the air. He unleashes a blade that destroys absolutely all souls. The Overlord is watching everything going on closely. It's something that throws the opponent's attack off in different directions. But after the spell dissipates and only smoke remains, through which nothing can be seen, David's strength ran out and began to bleed again. He falls to the ground. Charlie is very worried and treasures him. The young man was foolish to use his abilities so thoughtlessly. He has nothing more to share with his ancestor. With arrogance, the Lord of the Hall of Dark Souls looks at the worms. David tells the master that he is very tired and wants to sleep, but is begged not to. Except the pleas weren't answered, so what happens now? Grandpa strokes the guy's head and promises to protect with all his might. For his sake, he will break the golden tablet that was kept for a special occasion. Something appears behind the head before he even realizes it. It's a huge black vortex. People are terrified. Where did it come from? Charlie is also at a loss as to what the hell is going on. The noise makes even David open his eyes little by little. A huge hand appears from the sky with only one finger exposed. All the people were struck by this attack and killed in an instant. The lad and his master are very much amazed at such a sight. Even the patron of the hall becomes unbearably scared and in pain. He tries to extricate himself from the situation and asks what compelled the attack on them, something no one in the kingdom can handle. William replies that the Hall of Dark Souls is filled with embittered beings, so that is enough. David gets a very familiar feeling. He knows this man. The head asks to be released, and he can offer the Hall of Dark Souls in return. But that is too small a price to pay for the atrocities that have been committed. William crushes a man like a bug with just one finger, except he manages to escape in his real demon form. Now he is no longer the threat the kingdom faced every day. The protagonist won't let the creep escape, that's for sure. He takes it and draws out all the power before a powerful punch. But then David intervenes. He throws his weapon straight up. It hits and pierces the demon's chest, but with his last strength he says he can't be killed. After all, if this happens, the fruit of a generation will be destroyed, and there will be no one to pass the reign on to. The kingdom will be plunged into terror. William becomes more curious as to what it is, so orders him to speak more clearly. There are many other kingdoms, and if the head is gone, they will forcefully take away the fetus. This fact is the last reason to live. Everyone wondered if this was true. Something incredibly scary could happen. The protagonist asks, is it some sort of power source too? Not clear, so it's worth a better story. Fetuses were the talented heirs of the Ming Kingdom, for which the Dark Soul Hall received perks, and if anything went wrong, chaos would ensue. Since the current Shao family is incredibly capable, the fruit is a demon from there. The system again offers two choices. The first is to set up a contract with the hall. The second is to kill it. There is no pity for the demon's death, and so it gains a second-rank magic artifact for its second choice. Whether the head dies or not, William is ready to stand up to any enemy. William had hesitated at first, but now there was no doubt left. David thanks his progenitor for his support and asks what he can do in return. The key is to get stronger and properly protect yourself. That's what all fathers are worried about. Charlie has been waiting for the moment to tell all, but now all the cards are out and everything the demon said is true. Though David did not fully remember his progenitor, he does not consider him an enemy, even on the contrary. He promises to work on himself and fulfill his promise to William. We need to do what we can for the family and don't forget to visit the elders. The protagonist stands on the edge of a mountain outside the kingdom, and the truth is danger awaits. Since the descendants will face a challenge, William will help make them stronger and set a good example. Shao family members must stand on top. No one dares to use them. The head beckons one of his subordinates with his hand. He orders to give to make more grandchildren. One must continue the lineage and not be lazy, otherwise there will be punishment. But why the rush? That same evening, everyone in the Xiao family was eagerly carrying out the Lord's order. Even hundreds of miles away, sounds from the raucous evening could be heard. In the morning, one of the offspring sleepily goes outside. He notices something strange, the mountain. What happened to it? William only reached the second rank in a year. It took a very long time. But you can't wait too long, and especially not to allow an invasion. Normally, divine reincarnation requires decades of preparation, and even so, this kind of progress is very satisfying. The protagonist decides to see how far Jack has come. He is shocked by the results, most likely due to memories from a previous life. He also decides to verify the information about David, as he is the first member of the family to venture on the journey. Looks like the guy had reached the 9th level of the Golden Core. Moreover, he had gained a considerable amount of power in the kingdom. Edward appears from around the corner and says that a guest has arrived. William asks who it is and if he can meet him himself. But this is a person from the royal family. They should be received by people of higher status. But the protagonist doesn't understand what's wrong. Even if the king himself comes here, he will have no problem meeting him. Turns out this guest wants to propose matchmaking. The protagonist wondered with whom. Which of the granddaughters has started a relationship with the high society? But it was Princess Cecilia herself who said she loved David. William again presents two options. The first is to let things run their course. The second is to take matters into your own hands and organize a wedding. Because seriously, the reward for the second task sounds very tempting, so without a second thought, he chooses it. The skill of cloning puppets. Still, the idea of mixing the Xiao family's blood with the royal blood was a pretty good idea. Edward is overjoyed, waiting for a definitive answer from his master. David really deserves it. It has to go perfectly. The living room, there's a beautiful girl sitting there waiting for the chapter. She looks lovely and very sweet. Her skin is soft and silky, and her eyes are as clear as the blue sky. Cecilia rises from her seat to greet the protagonist. William thinks the princess is very bright and says there is no need for such an attitude. The girl has truly fallen in love with David and vowed to marry him, so respect is required. The man is more and more sure that this is the perfect daughter-in-law for the Chiao family, and also very interesting. After the old demon's death, David got rid of the rest of the Dark Soul Hall members, and in just a year, he had led many factions. Last month, the royal family turned out, and the girl had to flee the palace. At that moment, the guy rescued her. It was then that Cecilia realized she had fallen in love, and after his identity was revealed, she decided to get married. The protagonist thinks it's fate, and it's time to move to action. Now it's worth calling David. The girl is very happy with the support of her future family. She is truly happy. Suddenly, some lady in red appears, followed by warriors. She apologizes to the princess and asks her to return, otherwise she will be executed. Even the servants realize this is due to family squabbles and some animosity. William doesn't understand why the king is against it, since the Xiao family has become bigger and more powerful. The sad girl falls to her knees. She's definitely not going to leave. Cecilia asks not to worry. She will stand for the Xiao family with a mountain in any case. From behind, someone shouts that if she dares to marry one of the Xiaos, the whole family will be destroyed. The protagonist is annoyed. Who dares to defame their honor and name? He says no one is allowed to throw such words around in the domain of the clan. It seems to be her uncle. Even he is not able to influence the girl's decision. If not him, then no one. This man is also of royal blood. Even his appearance speaks of high status. He is the king's younger brother. Even subordinates are trying to dissuade the princess. Liang country has already prepared a dowry. Everyone wants to achieve fertile cooperation between the states. Cecilia realizes everything. It was planned in advance. They made her father promise to marry her off, but she will always have the last word. The progenitor comes forward and says, even if there is the whole world, their wedding will take place. The marriage will be tomorrow. The princess's uncle is really pissed off. You can see it all perfectly on his face. He asks how the man dares to disregard his orders. After a while, when everyone has calmed down, William points out the doors to the guests. The royal descendant shouldn't lose touch with reality either. The future heir to the throne wants to become one of Xiao, and they have no right to resist. The subordinate warns his master that David is very strong. If all his men get together, it won't be easy. This time he leaves, except he promises to come back. It's only worth waiting a little longer. Some strange man shows up at the heir's residence and asks where the princess is and why she hasn't come. Her uncle replies that she refused to return alive, but he will definitely bring her back to the Liang capital. The unknown man warns that his prince prefers only just blooming flowers. If there is a misfire, the man will not live. All of this makes the royal family member have sweat on his face. Finally, that person is gone. Now he wouldn't spare the Xiao family. It only took time to devise a plan to kidnap the princess, but they ruined everything. After meeting the ancestor, the subordinate will escort the lady home. For the night, she can stay at this estate. The next morning, preparations for the marriage were already in full swing. Everyone congratulates young Mr. David on his imminent marriage. Here he is, meeting eyes with his future wife. The guy didn't even expect this. They both got embarrassed, a blush appeared on their cheeks, and the subordinate, to stay out of the way, walks away. They probably have a lot to discuss. On Kikun Mountain, the protagonist is also preparing for the upcoming event. He will also try out his new power, divine cloning. The clone shares every sensation with him, and he is in full control. This creation also has a cultivation base. It is very useful. So that's it. The wedding begins, with new newlyweds in the Xiao family. People happily congratulate them. A very warm atmosphere ensues. But at such a moment, the system informs you of the enemy and gives you a choice. 1. Kill yourself. 2. Let David figure it all out. William decides to deal with the problem himself, or rather with the help of a clone. He is responsible for this holiday. The princess's uncle has prepared an ambush. He orders to kill everyone without exception, but it must be done quickly before reinforcements arrive. Now their operation has begun. If anything goes wrong, no one can escape. Suddenly there is some sort of small explosion in front of them, and then the main character or a clone of him appears in that spot. If they want to exterminate the Xiao family members, they should deal with him first. He alone goes to dozens of well-trained soldiers. The man remembers him. He was the one who prevented him from taking Cecilia home. But William doesn't care. Today is the big day, and no one should get in the way. People mock him. How could someone like that stop them? In front of him is an army made up of selected fighters, each possessing the maximum rank of the Golden Corps. Even David himself couldn't handle that level alone, much less that one. Uncle must do everything he can to bring the princess back. The main character finds it all very amusing. He even gets a smile on his face from the absurdity of the situation. The crowd is shocked. Even after all the warnings, William heads forward. One of the subordinates thinks he's just bluffing and just wants to stall for time, so he decides to go out against him alone. The name of the bald man with the big beard is Oscar, and he is asked to finish quickly. The old man is conjuring up some magic and muttering to himself something about the protagonist's insolence. But he gets so bored, he lightly swipes the air with his hand. The person stops and cannot move a single limb. Everyone is very surprised and doesn't understand how he did it. Why isn't Oscar moving? William walks a little closer and gets right in front of that man. With just a swipe of one finger, he could bring him down. At least something could bring him pleasure. Everyone is silent. They are becoming frightened by the unknown power they have seen. The protagonist asks not to worry, as they may try to attack together. But no, they decide to just summon someone stronger at Yuan Ying's stage, Chuck. His final energy looks more powerful, but William stays standing his ground. In response, the man steals his energy so he doesn't show off. All Grandpa has to do is wave his hands. His spiritual energy has simply evaporated. He seems very frightened. It seems the realization of real power has come to him. But before he can say anything on just one word from William, he dies. The men come a little closer to see what happened to their partner. The head orders the attack because he thinks that this is his limit and he is not capable of more. The mercenaries drew their swords and prepared to attack, the urge to kill growing greater. With an indifferent look, the progenitor puts his hand down. And everyone who is standing falls. There is not a single person left standing. Apart from the instigator himself, he doesn't understand how such a thing could be possible. Now he starts mashing on about how he is a member of the royal family and killing him would be considered a crime against authority. But here the situation is a bit opposite, because it was he who wanted to attack Princess Cecilia. The man disagrees. He is the king of the country of Liang, and Cecilia is obligated to marry the prince. William is not going to dig into the royal family's shit. No one is going to take his daughter-in-law out of the house, and that's the point. Uncle falls to his knees and says that he can't even imagine how strong the Liang state is. The heir is a very powerful man. No one can defeat him. The protagonist is not interested. He thought he was in for something mysterious, but here is some nonsense. The man asks to wait and thinks he has an obvious problem with his head. He introduces as his mentor Andrew, an elder of the Jinghong Temple. The kingdom of Ming and Liang is located in Nanzhou. It is where this place, which is considered the most powerful in the world, was built. But the progenitor is not going to take orders from anyone. William is sick of it all. She decides to end it all with this man for good. For completing the task, the protagonist receives a magical weapon in the 3rd class. He decides to cover all his tracks so that if someone came, there would be no evidence. A man watches the incredible festival from Qingyun Mountain. His clone conducts the ceremony, acting as a witness. Unfortunately, David has to bow out. He has things to do. The Zhao family will always support him. He is very happy. Such a welcome and trust from the progenitor. The guy asks the girl where she's going to go next, but she's going to follow him. Together, they look like a really happy and friendly couple. The girl does not want to live in the kingdom forever and wants to visit various unusual places. The system detects then the Jinghong Temple representative is approaching. Several options are available to him. First is to kill everyone and gain experience. Second, try to befriend them. Finally, something interesting has happened all this time. William decides to go down to the foot of the mountain and find out what awaits him next. He meets a man dressed in turquoise. He asks what is the purpose of his visit. William feels that the person standing in front of him has not yet reached the Yuanying realm. It looks like he's been standing there for almost a whole day, so who finally came to say hello to him? The progenitor is presented merely as a lower rank of the Qiao family. Unfamiliar asks if they found any dead bodies today, but only gets a negative answer. If Excellency has any business to attend to, he is sure to be helped. It is only worth waiting a little longer. To dispel anxieties, the man asks for some wine to be poured. The protagonist decides to try it first. He doesn't want to arouse suspicion. It turns out that a man has gone missing and his trail ends here, so he's come here to uncover the identity of the killer. The monk takes a sip of the very wine the progenitor brought. The flavor of it was amazing, sweet, and very refreshing, just something incredible. The Jinghong Temple practiced a method whereby they could figure out the killer from the corpse, which was why the first thing he asked about was him. William says he's heard of him, but why is he in mine territory now? The man answers, then there are people who are all-powerful. They are in charge of order control. There are people with great potential and outstanding abilities working there. He asks the question, if the main character grows a tree and it has fruit, what will his actions be? Well, he fools around and says he can't understand His Excellency's words. Since there are no leads, the monk will have to leave soon. He doesn't want to stay just for the liquor, although its flavor is impressive. The only question is, where did it come from in a place like this? Maybe things aren't as simple as they seem. The main character says that their family obtained this jug on their own. There is only one such jug. Upon request, the progenitor gives away such a treasure without pity. He seems to be aided in his quest by his apprentice's flame seal, which is used to control others and allows him to see what the person saw before death. William asks if he has a trace of the seal, but it is not necessary, for it is placed on those who come with a desire for powers. The man found out all the information he needed. That was enough. Monk asks if this alcohol was found during the treasure hunt. He then adds if he has found anything else unusual, but the protagonist doesn't know what he's talking about. The man from the temple wants to stay here for a while. Will he be able to stay at Xiao's house and have a cup of tea? William realizes what he's up to, so he refuses. It's getting dark and he has to get back. It seems the monk had revealed the progenitor. He was the reason people from the temple disappeared, and there was no point in hiding it anymore. The protagonist originally planned to get a better reward, but apparently it's going to work out the other way around. Looks like he wants to kill this man now, since he doesn't have a tag, and no one will know anything. Monk underestimates him and wants to see how he handles it. He orders all the treasures to be given to him, or else he will shower the Xiao family with blood. Also says that his kind are scum, and David is just trash that he can easily get out of his way. After these words, the monk begins to tremble, his spiritual strength slowly leaving him. He had never been so scared of who this man standing across from him was. It feels like the bones are breaking one by one. It's very painful. He recognizes a person from the divine Reincarnation realm. Only people with such power can control the energy of heaven and earth. The main character says it's true, and if he just walks away after taking alcohol, he'll be spared. But if he even tries to touch the Xiao family, he will be instantly executed. Feels very vividly the approach to death, so agrees to the terms. Only William said it to find out more useful information, but didn't hear it, so it's time to say goodbye to life. The person doesn't understand what he wanted to say with that. What information? The only thing he has to do before he dies is threaten William with empty words. William's real body is on Qingyun Mountain, and it is from there that he controls his clone. Here comes the end. The monk's breathless body lying on the floor. For this, he receives a magical weapon of the 3rd rank, the Frost Sign. We need to get rid of the corpse without leaving any evidence. It's just a pity that the item wasn't ranked 2. This thing is capable of slowing down a person's movement, and consequently their attacks. so there's not much to be sad about. With an evil grin, he says that posterity will have to pick up the slack again. In the royal family of the country of Liang, there is a secret room where there is a huge mirror. Looks like the man from there needs a princess to refine the Bayin core to get out of the divine reincarnation realm. The servant understands all this and so promises his mentor to get Lady Cecilia to him as soon as possible. The unknown man sent many gifts to be used as dowry. The wedding was about to take place, but no news. After that, he orders his servant to find out how things are going in the Ming kingdom. After a while, he comes back and reports that the king is out of contact. The guy is surprised and very angry. He is gathering people to go to another state. At the Honglu temple, people say they don't know of His Majesty's whereabouts. But if they don't know where the king is, they should be aware of where the princess is. After these words, there is a sepulchral silence. The monks are silent and don't even know what to say. The chapter does decide and says that Princess Cecilia is already married. The prince can't believe it. He wooed the princess so beautifully and she married someone else. The wedding took place only yesterday, and they only received news of it today. But the guy is not satisfied with this answer, and he asks for an audience with the king. In the reception room of the Ming kingdom, the guy didn't hear anything new either, only that the letter and all the gifts had been sent back. The prince thinks this was planned, and where did the king go? He did give an agreement to take the princess. But King Liang hasn't appeared here, and if there are no other questions, he should leave the Ming kingdom. The guy got really wound up. How dare a weak ruler tell the grand heir if he doesn't see the princess today? He promises to start a war. The servants become near the king to protect and surround the guest. Only the prince doesn't care. He easily throws the ants away. Even though this kingdom is weaker, Alex has no right to behave this way. David appears before the Lord and prevents him from harming him. Moreover, he palms the prince a couple meters away. Cecilia walks up to her father and asks if he's okay. The girl points to her spouse today. On the second day of her wedding, in accordance with custom, she returned to her ancestral home. David then greets the king according to all the rules of etiquette. The princess is finally home safe and sound, but the prince keeps groveling. In front of him, he sees an incredible picture. These two were made for each other. A girl with such a graceful appearance in the company of an excellent cultivator. If taken together, the mentor would be able to learn the new stage faster. It's a great opportunity, but the principle of truth is shocked with David's strength. At such a young age, he has gained what a high base. Alex leaves and says it doesn't end here. The kingdom will get what it deserves. The king is pleased with the choice of such a good man. He approves of the engagement. This made Cecilia very embarrassed. From the outside, she looks really happy. The guy got a smile on his face too. He thinks the girl is really cute. The subordinate says he saw everything with his own eyes. Because of the way of knowing people that the master has taught the prince, he knows for sure that the princess and David are a perfect match. He replies that it seems that this is the real will of God. He decides to send his subordinate to catch them both. Did he really mean the invincible brother of the Golden Core realm? Now the events are taking place behind the Chiao family's mountain. The main character meditates under a small waterfall. That's where the notification comes in. It seems an ancestor of Jack's has awakened some of the memories of the past world. He must go there, for everything around him now is an unknown mystery to him. William is also curious to know what memories the power of reincarnation has awakened. On the map of mountains and rivers, a beautiful glow emanates from Jack. It is surrounded by whirlpools of water, and they are very strong. The guy dives in there and remembers some details. He's lying on a small tile in the middle of an empty room. The person looks very haggard and gaunt. There's a bucket of blood underneath him. It keeps filling further and further. The girl says he's pretty stoic, but that's even better. She'll be able to pick up more organs for herself. For quality cultivation, blood wouldn't be superfluous either. The more the better. A man has black smoke coming out of his mouth. Why is she doing this? Turns out her name is Catherine. He treated her with all his heart. Why? Just then, someone walks in, and a black shadow appears on the floor. John Doe says he got everything because of Catherine. Tech, medicine, wanderlust, and even levels. But Jack loved this woman with all his soul. He didn't need all this. The girl asks not to spoil her mood because today it is good. He questions whether his life has been a lie. The man loved his destiny so much, and now he's in for such a miserable end. Jack closes his eyes little by little. He will never forgive them. Some kind of light appears. It seems to be the will of the Tao. Thanks to it, one's strength instantly increases and one is reborn. Jack is covered in sweat. Is what he saw really the past? He was framed, after which he died a miserable death. The guy's getting a headache. It's really hard to take something like that. He's letting all his anger and energy out. after which he falls unconsciously deep into the abyss like the cold ocean. The protagonist is pissed off. Catherine has brazenly used Jack's past body for her own needs. The finale was pretty deplorable, but the question remains, what lands are these people from? And especially the man who couldn't be seen in full. William must further improve, or else the descendants of the Xiao family would be doomed. The love of his past life killed Jack, so now there is only hate in his heart. Catherine took everything from him when he was halfway to invincible. Is that okay? In this life, the guy is going to fight to the end, even if he has to confront the heavens. A descendant appears behind the protagonist, near a tree. Jack asks the chapter to let him go so he can start cultivating. The map of mountains and rivers can no longer hold the young man back, so William agrees. He also promises an ancestor to come out and glorify the family, but the protagonist cries out, "No!" He better keep his head down. The way of a true lord consists of hiding his powers. The outside world is made up of ruthless tigers. One David was enough, and if he also goes the same way, the Xiao family will become a target. Jack promises that he will do his ancestors' bidding. William is very happy about it. The system detects an enemy approaching Xiao's family home. He can either crush the enemy with his power, or let Jack figure things out. Well, it's time for the wolf to go out into the big, bad world. Some unknown man stands at the entrance of Qiao's house and calls out to David. He seems to have come here at the behest of the Jinghong Temple, and his name is Eddie. He had some memories of the organization in his mind. This temple was founded by Catherine, who specializes in nurturing geniuses. The guy promises to guide him to the man he's looking for. Just need to follow him. They reach some mountain, and Eddie asks where David is. But Jack is in his musings and asks if he knows the place. No, and it has nothing to do with him. Why even ask such questions? Surprisingly, this is where he died in his past life. This is where he was trapped, where his marrow and all the tendons were taken. This is where his blood was spilled. They even destroyed the mountain to hide any. Not going to listen to this nonsense and call the guy a head case. But then the man stops after hearing Catherine's name. Daredevil, who is he, and how dare he call an ancestor's name? This lady's name is known only to the highest ranks and then only to a very small number. Jack asks if the temple is still doing this sort of thing, looking for geniuses and then being caught and forced to live in a real hell. The man gets scared for a second. How did the leaked information come about? In that case, the best solution is to just get rid of the problem. He releases black dragons with red eyes. They all joined together in a big lump and had to catch up with the targets. After the explosion, there was nothing left on the site. Eddie thought he'd won. Except it's not that simple. Turning around, he meets Jack's gaze again. His eyes become bulging. How could this be possible? Guy asks what Eddie was looking for David for. What was the purpose? The man replies that such a trifle should not enter into the details of his plans. Again, there is an explosion of white energy, only this time more so. And when he turns around again, the one appears in front of him. A shiver runs through Eddie's entire body. How come? Why? Jack used to be considered invincible, so all his actions are to no avail. Once upon a time, the temple also had such a genius with unfathomable talent and incredible power. But unfortunately, he took a wrong turn. The guy is pissed. What a ridiculous thing to say. He was a real genius. Eddie asks if he has a problem with his head, since the man has been dead for a long time. If he thinks so, he'd better take a closer look at his abilities. A huge burst of energy is released that hits its target precisely. With Eddie's body, something happened. The ducts slit, as if every muscle had been pierced with something sharp. This man has a level 9 golden core. He has never had an equal in power, but on the verge of death he realizes that there is someone far more powerful. This technique drained Jack's strength. First level gold core versus 9th level gold core, quite difficult. In his pocket, the guy only found 1 token and a few spirit stones. He's going to use his powers to get rid of any trace of the murder. The temple people are looking for David. It may end very badly. We need to watch and find as much information about Catherine as possible. Alex can't realize his plan until he waits for someone. Thanks to a token, he can be contacted. By the looks of it, my brother must be around here somewhere. He is known as the first Golden Core man. No one has ever met anyone like him. The prince doesn't even know if it's worth entering. But true geniuses sense everything, and from behind the door, you hear him being asked to come in. In a small chair sits Jack. Alex greets brother. The guy at first doesn't understand why they call him that, but it's not too important. Alex introduces himself as an associate of Eddie's who has come to meet him. The guy asks why the guy was looking for him, but the question was too suspicious, so he decided to rephrase it. The prince tells without any suspicion that he is here to learn of the capture of the princess and David. Now Jack understands why he was searched for. He is very worried that something like this could happen to him. Alex noticed that his brother was really thinking about something. He decides to get a token so the other side is sure of him and asks about the plan. The prince has quite a few connections in the Ming kingdom that could be useful. It's worth joining them and starting a rebellion. In order not to give himself away, he agrees, saying that today they will destroy the kingdom. Very glad that such a powerful man liked his idea. Some strange noises are heard from the houses, and hearts keep flying out of the windows. The family hopes they will leave as many descendants as possible. This is an ancestor's order. Cecilia is only too happy to obey. David feels like he's getting stronger after each time. Suddenly the door opens and some piece of paper flies in from there. The guy deftly catches the letter with 2 fingers. He has a very serious look. Upon opening it, his boyfriend can't believe his eyes who the sender is. When he went outside, he saw no trace, no clue or clue. Shouts are heard in the imperial palace, intent on overthrowing the pesky king. From now on, they are the ones who will rule the kingdom, and someone just wants his women because they are so seductive. But there is not a soul in the place to which they have come. Where is the whole army? The prince orders them to be found immediately. I don't care how they do it. But some voice is heard from behind, warning that there is no need to look for anyone, for no one is coming. Alex is approached by David and his subordinates, and he doesn't understand what's going on. It seems their plans have been revealed. All the enemy troops have been destroyed, only they are left. The man doesn't understand how such a thing could happen and immediately tries to run away. David realizes this right away, but will he succeed in doing it? And the prince says he'll give him a chance if he lets him go. He'll ask him to give the guy some soul pills. Seems like a great idea. Though he is not in the same position, he is still the prince of the country, so war could break out at any moment. But David is not afraid. He was prepared for this from the beginning. It's about time my brother showed up. Doesn't he think so too? To David, this guy seems very familiar, even though he has a mask. Alex brags and says that he definitely can't resist his brother with a level 9 gold core. But David is confident, and he thinks he can hold his own against such an opponent. This is the man he and his mentor were talking about. All that's left is to catch him. Jack pulls out his sword and slits the prince's throat. He doesn't even have time to realize what happened. David at first doesn't understand why he killed his associate. But once he takes off his mask, he's very easy to recognize. The guy asks what he forgot here. But that's just the way things are, and there's nothing to be done about it. Jack reveals that behind this guy is a more powerful organization designed to hunt people down. Doesn't decide to destroy the corpse, so no one will know the cause of his death, but you still have to be careful. The next day at the Xiao household, Edward hands his father an encrypted letter from David. It is quite unexpected for the protagonist to receive such a message. Edward is very curious about what it says, and he dares to ask it. Without saying that in the letter William refuses, the children of the family should be quietly cultivated. It is worth hastening his childbearing. After a year, the number of descendants reached 3,000, for which he receives the reward of a second-ranked divine realm bow. The descendants worked hard. Finally, their numbers reached the heights. I also got this weapon. Its power is doubled if the wielder is strong enough. It's really a treasure. Now, it's safe to say that any murders won't be difficult. During this time, David grew tremendously and even surpassed the Golden Core, reaching the Yuan Ying period. The system tells of achievements in war and killing people from the Jingui Temple. The more pressure he gets, the stronger his offspring become. But he's also interested in the progress of Jack, who left not too long ago. The main character says with a smile that he's not bad either. Toth acts stealthily, killing enemies and saving people. He follows the keep your head down command well. David sent the letter again, only this time he put a treasure map. The letter says it depicts the place where the mighty Emperor Dark was buried thousands of years ago. Many priceless items are kept there. The treasure is located roughly at the junction of Ming and Liang country. It's a chance for an ancestor to unwind and take a trip. If the protagonists get them, it will definitely take the family to the next level. Again, 2 choices are given from the system. Go for the treasure or refuse to go to avoid danger. The protagonist agrees because this is a great opportunity to become famous. Edward follows orders and goes to prepare for the events to come. For the first option, he gets the river water of the child and mother, which increases the likelihood of pregnancy by 10%. For the advancement of the genus, this is a great thing, invaluable. If the girls of the family drink 2 a glass daily, the number of children will increase. It seems even the Jinghong Temple has gotten wind of the great secret treasure and has announced a recruitment of those willing to be sent to search for it. People have heard it was left by some ancient power, must be very dangerous there. Many people agree to this offer because the temple has an excellent reputation. Mostly only one youth went, but others wanted to get in too. If there are geniuses among the people, they will be able to go with others on the search. In addition, they will be given special pills. Even ordinary citizens think that a member of the Xiao family perfectly fits this title. The similar treasure location indicated by the temple is slightly different from what is written on the map. But either way, everyone is pretty close. David can't be fooled that easily. Edward doesn't understand why they're recruiting geniuses, why they'll divide the treasure equally. Most likely they just want to grab the fruit and the rest is up to them. They have to take care of themselves anyway. The protagonist is not going to share the treasure with the other clans. The son listens to his father and is much calmer at heart. A servant gathers into the room and says that people from Jinghong Temple have come. They want to talk. William lets the subordinate go and asks to know their intentions, but not to engage in conflict. The guests that came in are Erica and Jacob. They are on entering the Yuanying stage. They praise the very tasty tea. In the temple, such a thing is only available to special students. Edward thinks their cultivation base allows one to become one, doesn't he? But the girl says no, they don't run such small errands. Edward wondered how strong the temple's disciples were then. Likely to handle them would not be easy. Then he asks what the occasion is. The temple plans to purchase some materials, but that's not all. They would like to go on a treasure hunt with them. Edward says it all sounds pretty good. But why them? There are plenty of other great options out there. The temple doesn't give everyone such a chance. Is Head Xiao really looking down on them? Sounds like they're trying to push bad persuasion techniques these days. Edward says they've got it all wrong. Their family are simple people, so they won't be of any use. But the girl denies. David, representative of the Chiao family, married the princess and became famous for almost the entire continent. She had also heard that he had reached the Yuaning period while he was still young. Didn't that sound too pathos? Edward denies it. David hasn't been in the house in years, and he doesn't even keep in touch with them. Erica and Jacob look amongst themselves, a little disappointed, but they keep insisting that if the temple gives them an opportunity, they should take it, whether they have talent or not. Edward pulls a not-so-small bag of money out of his pocket. He asks for a little sympathy from them. There are casualties during the treasure hunt, and there is no way Grandpa can let that happen. The guy doesn't accept what that means. Do they really look like people who just want money? He drops the sack and gold, silver, and copper coins fall out. They are here to benefit the community, not for profit. Edward says it's too important, so he should talk things over with his family. These two are too assertive and should be approached with extreme caution. He asks his father how best to handle the situation. The protagonist thinks that if they bring the genius to the temple, they will be richly rewarded. But then, what should they do? Should they really send her to her families? Edward says that their cultivation level is astounding. They look strong. In that case, William decides to meet with them in person and deal with them. With the power he gains, he creates his clone again. It's really quite handy. Then, along with the clone, Edward returns to the guests. Upon entering, William asks what will they get at the end of the treasure hunt. He immediately assesses the situation, and Jacob wonders what they wish to gain. In fact, because of this they will get nothing. The geniuses will train in the temple, and after some time will surely glorify the family. The protagonist immediately smells a catch and some kind of trap in it. Xiao already has no need for anything. They should be happy and grateful from such an offer. These two keep pushing, saying that most families don't. They are very lucky. This gimmick again? The girl asks. Don't they put Jinghong Temple in anything? As a threat is detected, a choice system is activated. The first option is to refuse the offer or accept it. But it's not that simple. If he kills his opponents, real chaos will ensue, so it's not worth the risk just yet. William chooses the second and is rewarded with a diversion trick. It distorts the vision of the opponent, below rank. Jacob wondered if maybe the progenitor was hiding something. He says these two have made up too much extra. If they don't believe it, they can go and see for themselves. They agree and insist that there are many geniuses among them. Edward wondered, would his father really send his descendants with them? All descendants from 18 to 25 years of age are quite energetic and capable. The protagonist asks his son to guide them, as he is too old to walk so much. Edward obediently obeys the orders, and they walk through the large red doors. Jacob doesn't understand what they mean by that. The area looks deserted, not a soul in sight. Edward says they're wrong. It's worth listening to for starters. A guy and a girl scrutinize the entire area. In the middle of a white day, strange noises like this come from the fun red yard and all these people doing it day and night. The young man asks, how does one even do something like that? But they probably don't need to explain, and they've figured it out. It's still family territory and there's nothing wrong with love. The girl doesn't want to accuse anyone of anything. She just wonders what it's all about. Edward replies that if it weren't for that, could they have grown to this size? Erica then asks if this is the reason David left his home. But the head denies it. He went on a journey to test himself and his strength. The Xiao family is only strong in the continuation of the lineage, nothing else. And if they don't believe, they can sit here until evening. The guy gets a blush on his face, now he's getting the hang of it. But then the girl's attention falls on the split mountain. Was there an earthquake there? This mountaintop was damaged on a night that labored with special fervor. And if they don't believe it here either, they can ask anyone in the Lodge City, everyone knows that. The progenitor asks what they now have to say about his descendants. For now, they're not going to respond, and they want to see everything else, because it's just the outside yard. The protagonist firmly asks the guests to follow him. This seems to be the place where all the family's talents come together, but his father asks Edward not to worry. If they could find 10 talents, the temple would receive 10 treasures, and if they could find 20, they would immediately be accepted as an elite. Their future will be flawless without any problems. William asks if they are sure of their choice and definitely want to watch. Jacob and Erica can't wait, so they ask to be taken farther away. The protagonist does not refuse his words, except that he sorcerizes the received spell, blinding. In fact, now they don't have to see the whole truth. Once inside, we see descendants in full training. Now Edward fears they will take the geniuses of the family. But the face of these two somehow is not very much satisfied. They see helpless subordinates who suffer bullshit. The guy asks how did such people even get into the courtyard? What kind of passing conditions do they have? Even in ordinary homes, people are more capable than this bunch. Sad and depressed they walk away, and the head doesn't realize what's wrong. Anyway, if they keep looking, they won't find anything. Edward guessed that his father had been willing to take them there for a reason. Turns out he had something in mind beforehand. Either way, his father is amazing. The real thing is the hard-working members of the Xiao family. And guests see something strange, like a man hanging from a tree. But things reach the point of absurdity when the boy jets at the family's name. The couple thinks they are sick and abnormal. To do something like this is absurd. The girl asks about real talents, but Edward doesn't know what he's talking about. This disciple is at the 3rd level of the Golden Core. He can't be considered outstanding, but to humiliate him like this? The protagonist is up to something else. It's only going to get more interesting from here on out. They keep seeing crap, people lying on the floor, basking in the sun. Guests don't understand what they're doing and why they are behaving this way. Now they are certain that the only hope for their bright future is David. William asks if they have decided to take someone. They've been to the family's town and seen the exterior and interior courtyard. Does anything more need to be done? It's as if the couple has had an epiphany. Now they have to bow out because they're in a hurry. The protagonist orders important guests to be escorted to the exit. Jacob is angry that they wasted the whole day. They would have been better off visiting the other houses. Now Erica understands why David refuses to come home. Edward, who is standing aside, thinks, are they definitely talking about the Xiao family? Xiao's descendants were considered the geniuses of the kingdom at all times. David and Jack weren't with them today, but the others shouldn't be underestimated either. The son asks why the family's geniuses didn't come to the Jinghong Temple's liking. The protagonist replies that there's already a lot of incredible talent out there. Edward thinks this is all very strange after all. They are also gathering descendants on a treasure hunt. But William asks not to worry, because many people know about the existence of the treasure and everyone wants to get his hands on it. The stronger a person becomes, the more likely they are to win. There are some doors behind the Xiao family mountain. The place looks peaceful. The awards received are distributed randomly to the descendants of the family. Now the protagonist will try much harder than before. It's only been half a month and the progenitor is already looking very exhausted. He had finally reached the 3rd level of divine reincarnation. Can the pills help with the rate of procreation? Need more offspring? Edward reports that everything is ready for the treasure hunt to begin. But before leaving, the protagonist has to check everything out. He is greeted by a crowd of muscular men, well trained. The man with purple hair, Ethan, is the captain of this team and is at the peak of the Golden Core. The others are also in the Golden Core realm. If you send them, they will definitely get the treasure. The progenitor approves of his son's choice. He has done a good job. He hands them a real map that describes all the information. This time they should be extra careful. Life is the most precious. Edward asks not to worry. They are all trained and well prepared. The protagonist wants to give them something else. Thanks to this, they will be safe. Ring of Heavens Above allows you to cover a great distance in no time and deal serious damage to the enemy. The captain thanks the ancestor for such a valuable gift. William decides to create a clone to keep an eye on Ethan's actions. It will be safer that way. He hopes nothing bad will happen and he will be enough. Many people gathered at the border of the kingdoms to welcome the Jinghong god. He praises the subordinates who have brought in a lot of talent and promises a good reward. No one will be left out. But the man assumed that a smaller measure of the couple would bring 10 talents from the Xiao family. They say they've been there and are also upset by this kind of turnaround. If that's the case, there's nothing to be done about it. It's a shame that at least David couldn't be brought in. We'll have to do things differently. The road leading to the treasure is open, so the treasure chase begins. Jinghong Temple and no one else should win. Chapter asks if there is any news about David, but it seems he hasn't left the kingdom and he's not going after the treasure. If he doesn't come, the trap we set will be useless. Except that the subordinate had heard rumors that the Chiao family had also sent out search teams from their side. The scouts who were there said they didn't find anyone outstanding, so take them into consideration. There's no time to waste, it's time to move out, but the important thing is to keep following David. Right now, Xiao's group will be leaving the kingdom territory, so the head asks not to use their last names, but replace it with Kiao. The main character thinks Ethan deserves to be called Team Captain. All subordinates are sympathetic and promise to follow orders. They're even starting to call him brother. Everyone seems to be getting along. Since the ancestor said that their lives were above all else, one should act covertly. One should not commit rash murders. William doesn't seem to have anything to worry about at the moment. The system has discovered the great power of reincarnation, and for this, he receives a reward. The Tea of the Immortal. It is made of the ancient tree of enlightenment. Through it, you can purify souls and accelerate the sense of the passage of time. The progenitor has 2 options for the development of events. The first is to prepare and think about reincarnation. The second is to get involved in dangerous matters. The protagonist asks how great the descendant's power is. But no one can say for sure, not even the system itself. William approaches the estate where the baby has appeared. Stepping inside, he sees a seemingly ordinary newborn child. But looking a little closer, you can feel the great power. This baby has found the golden core and spiritual root of heaven from birth. The progenitor discovers the very map where Jack was at first and takes the boy with him. It is already quite natural for him that all great personalities prefer to be reborn in his family. He holds out a cup of the very tea he had recently received. The child started talking calmly, without any problems. He seems to have been reincarnated a lot and managed to forget his original name, so nothing connects him to his first life. The boy wanted to be reborn into some quiet and humble family, but it seems something didn't go according to plan. William can't discern the previous realm of the infant cultivation. Regardless of his past life, right now the Xiao family's blood is flowing in him and he is not going to change anything. This answer pleases William. The system congratulates the host on receiving divine power, the opening of the celestial seal. Since he agreed to live in peace, it's worth it just to be aware of his past. Sure, the celestial seal isn't considered anything great, but overall it's not bad. It turns out he reincarnated a great power during the period of victory, and though his memories are incomplete, he had decent strength. Kale thinks the ancestor is very powerful, or he wouldn't have offered to help. He has no issues at this point and is fine with everything. In a past life, he was buried somewhere here, and there was no small amount of treasure left behind. The progenitor tells him that the location of his clan will be revealed very soon, but the child doesn't fully understand what's going on. The events develop on the border of the kingdom, where many people have gathered. According to the map, Xiao's men should be heading in the other direction. The crowd is confident in their ancestor, for he can do no wrong. Ethan has a great plan, but it needs to be listened to carefully. Since they can't be without the treasure and too many brethren have been harmed by the temple, the commander suggests destroying them with poison, a suggestion everyone liked very much. According to the report, there are about 100 people outside the valley, so they should wait. Dozens of people gathered near the real location of the treasure. From the entrance, they feel a very rich energy. Its power fills people's bodies, working its way to every bone. Kale sits on the doorstep and assesses the whole situation. There doesn't seem to be a single genius among them. Erica notices the boy and asks what family he is from and if he wants to join the temple. In an angry tone, the child asks the question, "Are they going to dig up the grave?" They don't understand what he means by the great emperor. Thanks to a special technique, Kale has matured to 8 years old in less than a day, but that's quite enough. Jacob realizes that he is a level 9 gold core, so gives him a chance to join the temple, otherwise he will be killed. The kid gets up off his knees and says that's what they're going to check out now. Erica casts a spell, warning that the child shouldn't express herself like that. Well, the boy's got enough energy for a fight. He concentrates, and his aura becomes much larger. The hand that was created is pierced by a huge beam. Jacob says the power differential is too great and they need to run. William gets a notification from the system saying that Kale beheaded Erica and Jacob. He is surprised, even though he was born yesterday. His abilities are astounding. But you have to be careful. The world hides a lot of secrets. Someone picks out from the forest and says that the Xiao family has prepared a trap. People are fleeing. It looks like the army is closing in, and the secret treasure was a hoax for them. Between the Jinghong Temple and the family, a real feud began. The commander doesn't understand what other army, but the subordinates are about to leave. They're not going to risk their lives for some prize. Everyone keeps running away because the offensive has already begun. The head says that very soon there will be an order of magnitude fewer people here. He orders his subordinates to break formation. But there's some chaos going on. The Xiao family people have already gotten there. The chapter is trying hard to kill as many people as possible. The captain didn't expect the men from the temple to react so quickly, so he's willing to save his comrade-in-arms at the cost of his life. But a clone of the protagonist appears in front of Ethan. There's a big explosion going on. You can't see anything behind it. Looks like one of the Williams got ripped to shreds, but it can't be helped. He's going to use a touch of heaven. The captain thanks for saving his life. He's not going to stand by from now on. The head immediately realized that it was a clone. He thought it was very mean. But he's not about to let his opponent go. The man takes to the air and is about to stab the guys in the back. But a very strange flash of light appears in front of him, from which flies out a fast, sharp and burning arrow. She hits a left hand. The head doesn't have time to realize anything. If it weren't for the pill the temple gave him, he'd be long dead. The man's bruised but steady on his feet. A spell that William used earlier appears from the sky. Since they were the first to start, no matter who, Jinghong Temple would take revenge on them. The musing ends, and when he turns around, he sees another arrow. The protagonist has finally figured it out and can rest a bit. For his achievements, the protagonist receives a sealing spatial pearl and a powerful Yuan Ying ringlet. He also praises the descendants for the work they have done. One must remember to improve. Thanks to the first-rank pearl, he can lock within an area from which he will not be able to escape. Moreover, he will be able to increase the number of spiritual roots. This is wonderful. There are quite a few out there who suffer from a lack of them. The only sad thing is that they don't have alchemists making pills. William can't personally do it, but he has ideas. A subordinate reports to an unknown man that the Xiao family has been attacked. Almost everyone has been killed. For starters, they plan to bring order to the kingdoms, but they clearly started in the wrong place. Temple followers Megan and Matthew appear. The head orders to suppress the kingdom by any means necessary and revive the reputation of Jinghong Temple. All the proceeds of Cal's past life now belong to the family. Because of the ancestor, it can cultivate quietly. It's a small price to pay. Then William asks about alchemy. Does he know about it? He replies that of course, but it's not working out so well. The protagonist hands a kid some scroll and asks him to take a look. Kale is surprised. This pill is capable of enhancing spiritual roots, a legendary item that has been mentioned in myths. Unfortunately, he is unable to deal with this creation, so the progenitor lets him go. Outside Xiao City, some girl in white appears. Her name is Arya, and she's come to avenge her mother. His father called Edward into his office for some reason. He wanted to give him an assignment, secretly acquire materials, and start a high rise on the family's fields. The family has been filming people at the moment, so it's not worth disrupting basic processes. Edward replies that it won't cause any problems. They already sell about half of the drugs on the list. The protagonist has solved the problem with medicine. Now all that remains is to deal with alchemy. The motion pill is considered a top-level alchemy, but the family only has one of the second level. How many challenges will they still have to overcome? The system notifies that Jack is in a relationship crisis. There are two choices: take advantage of the girl's condition or show indifference. The likes of him has fallen in love with a girl from the Jane clan, Zoe, and he has some pretty tough choices to make. It's too exciting for William. Why should he be the one to make the choice? But whatever the situation, he's not going to become a scoundrel, not even for a reward. The protagonist hears some strange screams from the yard. Looks like it's because of that girl. She's not going to leave until she sees Ryan. The progenitor wants to hear from the young lady as to why she wanted one of her descendants. To the fourth generation, he was very handsome at birth and enjoyed great popularity. The servants are going to capture her, whether she's alive or dead. She didn't think the strength of the family but seemed so high. Arya apologizes to her mother. She didn't get justice. Maybe after she dies that person will understand. But then the main character shows up and orders everyone to stop. He orders Edward to take her to safety. Because there are too many descendants, some events are inevitable. William shows a portrait of a girl and asks if the man knows her. Ryan replies that he doesn't know and has never seen her in his life. He assumes this girl is out to get him. The progenitor slaps him and tells him it's his daughter. The guy asks me not to hit him. because he really doesn't remember anything. Edward escorts the young mistress to the main character. She looks angrily at her father. What scoundrels are unworthy to live? William asks his anger to die, for he is here to help figure things out. Arya stops dead in her tracks. He abandoned her mother. After things have calmed down, she hands over things that will help in the investigation. The protagonist asks to look closely at it all and try to remember. He recognizes her as Olivia, but keeps saying it's a mistake. But he has no excuse. The guy abandoned his daughter and daughter-in-law. William also goes on a rampage and is rewarded for it. A secret technique that helps him see memories. The reward came in handy. Now they'll find out what it was really like. Some mistress orders to keep a close eye on the man. The main thing is not to harm him. The woman mounts her horse and heads somewhere with a smile. With tears in her eyes, she shows Arya her father. Next we see memories from even earlier. Olivia calls the guy one of the most attractive in the entire world. He tries to refuse and says he has a spouse. But all he gets in return is a hard slap across the face. She orders him to close his mouth and just enjoy the process if he doesn't want to suffer. Now the protagonist understands why things happened the way they did. To avoid danger, Rain had to fulfill whims. He couldn't even imagine that she would give birth to a daughter. Arya apologizes for her mistake, very embarrassed. William says that in that case, a family member should stay with them. Since they are parents, they should get to know each other better. Rain is scared, but the protagonist doesn't want to hear anything like that. He did nothing and received 2 rewards, the second for Jack. A jade body made of ice. In less than 2 hours, his spiritual root level had increased by 2, and his cultivation had reached the soul nascent realm. Zoe's emotions burst out, and she decided to take all the initiative. Thanks to this, Jack's condition improved greatly. Fortunately, the protagonist is old. He doesn't need to suffer these ranges. William asks Arya if she is a follower of the Lord of Redemption. That's her biggest mystery. How did an ancestor know about it? There, the girl gained level 4 alchemy skills. The main character is happy. He finally found the right person. Usually alchemists can only improve and refine elixirs as opposed to who can do much more. The girl is not happy. Are they really going to set her up as an alchemist? Edward is displeased with the girl's behavior. How dare she refuse the offer after what she did? William calms him down and tells him to be a little more lenient. The predoc doesn't force Arya to do anything she doesn't want to do. He suggests leaving the alchemy theme and trying a special tea. The young lady doesn't refuse and takes one sip. Once she tasted it, she had a chance for an epiphany. The events take place 3 days later at the very same spot. Arya comes in and asks, "Is this tea the tea of enlightenment?" The main character confirms this. He is also called immortal. It's believed that even a great mage dynasty doesn't have such cultivation resources. Since she is back in the family, he decides to give her a special physique. A golden orb appears in his hands and shines pleasantly. This is a pure water ice jade body. It is what alchemists want the most. The protagonist asks how long it will take a girl to level up. For now, her level is advanced to soul nucleation, and she can refine level 5 elixirs with recipes. So William asks Arya to go after him. Spatial magic had turned into a secret realm. Here, she would be able to gain a new level of power in 3 years. Progenitor quietly lets her study there, and if any resources are needed, just ask. The system notifies that some Empress has been reborn into the Gu family, but what does that have to do with Xiao? William should build friendships with them just in case. The system then adds that she was born in their clan's territory, and there was probably usage. The protagonist should block it so other countries don't find out. He gets good rewards for doing so. The appearance of a huge number of enemies has also been revealed. So what will he do? It looks like the Empress is in that wagon. She's crying loudly. A woman with red hair holds a little girl in her arms. It's very sad that something like this happened to their family. The mother feels sorry for the child. The Gu family has many marriages with the Qiao family. They will surely be able to help. Some man turns to the Lord and asks why they don't act. Megan asks not to worry. She wants the sects to finally appreciate ironclad methods for what they are. Most sects and aristocrat families didn't appreciate Jing Hong Hall, so it's worth it to teach them a lesson. The Liang dynasty is completely harmless. Its members have always worshipped them, but the Ming dynasty is different. The girl asks why on earth did Matthew choose the Gu family for further action. But it's very simple. You need to act consistently from small to big. After will go the Xiao family, and no matter if they are saved or not, the lives of their kind will be completely destroyed. The Gu people already think they've been abandoned, because Jing Hong Hall is very strong. They're deeply wounded and won't last long, but at least the baby has to be saved. A subordinate asks if they need to act first if no one has shown up yet, Matthew confirms. Matthew confirms, we need to go kill the old man and the woman, the baby at the same time. The wagon is surrounded by Hall followers. They can go no further. The mother asks that her daughter Camille not be blamed for her action. She's going to kill the baby for her own sake. Living in slavery is even worse. But then the protagonist shows up and asks to take the creature for himself. In the arms of a man, the girl immediately stops crying. A smile appears on her face. An exhausted woman falls to her knees and begs to save her daughter's life. Also warns you to run away as soon as possible. They will try to hold off the enemies as long as possible. The people from Jinghong Hall are outside. They most likely don't know that Master has appeared. But William doesn't listen to the woman and, as luck would have it, goes outside. People didn't expect someone to finally dare to come out. The power of the hall could indeed easily wipe out all the sects and families in the Ming dynasty except for the Xiao family. Was somewhere else thought about it some more, but it turned out differently. Without worrying about identity, they're going to kill William, but he uses the expanded dojo of heaven and earth. It allows you to control all spells and auras that are below the user's cultivation level. Megan and Matthew see that the attacks aren't working on him and are going to run away. Except the protagonist uses a forbidden mystical bead. It seals all the people in one place, not allowing them to get out. He promises to take the girl to the manor, but he can't help the two of them. Their wounds are too serious. But the woman is not worried about herself, only about her blood child. Things can't go on like this. Something has to change, so the head asks Edward to come over. He orders him to send a letter to David to run the Ming dynasty on his own. It is to be the family's main external defense. Subordinates report that Lord Matthew is out of contact and Princess Cecilia has staged a coup to become the first female empress. The man is very unhappy. All is lost. Absolutely everything. He asks where they went, but the subordinates only manage to say Xiao family. The unknown promises that the Ming dynasty and the Xiao family will pay in full for such humiliation. The man asks if they should go ahead with the plan related to Qiao. As long as the revenge plan doesn't change, and everything will go according to it. In the Ming Dynasty Palace, we see Cecilia and her father. At last he would be rid of this burden. At last he would pass the throne to a worthy heir. But until Jinghong Hall L rebuilds, the throne will still belong to him. Tomorrow morning, her father will go with her to prove to the world that he handed over the throne willingly. This girl brought a lot of trouble. She was screaming so hard and only William could calm her down. Edward reports that they have finished the first stage. After that, the second one should be started immediately. All children who have reached the Golden Core should be sent for further training. And the third stage is due to start tomorrow, so we need to hurry. People are starting to gossip. They have heard that mobilization and preparations for war have already started. Just how long will it take them to carry out the plan? The sacred transformation sphere led by Guardian Gary is dying. He started the siege of the Qiao family about a month ago and is not going to give up. The subordinates report that the guest has already arrived. He should be invited as soon as possible. But the man in black has come himself. He says Gary has 3 months left. If he doesn't make it, the consequences will be dire. He asks what he means, but the whole Southern Territory already knows about it. The attack on the Qiao family is not without consequences. The guard didn't know that there would be a 6th-rank mountain defense in the Southern Territory, making it much more complicated. One of the men asks to stop fighting over nothing. It's better to just leave it up to him. No matter if they can destroy the Qiao family or not, their next step is to control the Liang dynasty. But the master advises against it because 2 of his men are already missing. The masked man is not one of the puppets being controlled, and he knows how to deal with it. Cultivation Tower, Stone Tablet, Pavilion. Now the Xiao family city has an aristocratic appearance. The head wants to create a perfect cultivation land. This he needs a strong assistant. Here comes a notification from the system that says, a cultivator who understands the field of integration has arrived. After looking at all the information, the protagonist realizes that he has come in order to find an apprentice. This old man is just overwhelmed with emotion. This kind of thing is beyond comprehension. His name is Paul, and he's surprised that his family has advanced him so far in a couple hundred years. Grandpa notices something. Someone asks to let the girl go. The guy tries his best to protect the defenseless girl. Paul observes that this young lad has a strong character and a very good level of spiritual roots, a perfect match for his future heir. But he notices a badge on his belt that belongs to the Xiao family, after which he silently walks away very depressed. I was lucky. Just then, out of nowhere, a large and fully filled jug of sake arrives. The old man has really taken a liking to someone, so they suggest he sit down and talk over a cup. A guy like that should be practicing his skills right now. In terms of characteristics, he fits too. But he's the Qiao family again, so why does Paul dislike people from there so much? As Grandpa turned away, a woman, a pickpocket, approached him. This is also a wonderful person with 6th-level spiritual roots posing as a beggar. Paul asks how her family managed to guess what the purpose of his visit was, but that information is open to everyone. So he decides to go and have a look around and then talk to the head. William went into detail about which apprentices the master liked, but the heirs still stood by and did nothing. The last trump card remains. It's Cale. He's not very happy about this turn of events, but only he can make him the most talented student in the family. Paul doesn't have long to live, and he doesn't want to make enemies, so he'll have to look for students elsewhere. But here he meets a disciple with heavenly spiritual roots. It seems the Jiao family wants with all their might to get the heavenly spiritual roots, which should transfer after negotiating with him. Cale is covered in sweat. He begs to be looked at. Uncle asks to take him along and show him what the family is all about, and the boy's hopes are dashed. He leads him to the Xiao family's beautiful and cozy guest pavilion. The child says that the guest has arrived and is waiting for him here. Uncle wondered why before the Xiao family took him in. But William replies that he only wants to keep in touch with the King of the Spear, nothing more. In that case, he decides to stick around for a while and choose exactly who will be his apprentice. Cale asks how long it will take him to get into the Ascension Sphere. What is the main reason for such a high complexity of development to the Sphere of Ascension? Spiritual roots, techniques, pills, awareness, or the concept of heaven and earth rules? Paul realizes that the student is just testing him on his endurance. If the family ancestor wasn't here, he'd be happy to explain all the rules. If they master the knowledge, they will also understand the form of the form. Thao and the laws have their own ways, so why define them? After the guy's ideas, a realization comes to the master. A form of climbing? Then right at that spot, he sits down and starts cultivating. Cale originally wanted to dial up the unification sphere, but here's no way he expected Paul to actually be able to break through. A sacred disc appears in the hands of the ancestor. It is enveloped in warm energy. The child thinks it is a gift of fate. Who would have thought that such a treasure would end up in the hands of his ancestor? He got it when he saved the girl. It was said that the Qiao clan would suffer a Catholic incident. The unexpected showed up in the family, and William had to research information about it. In creating time, heaven and earth pop out of the sun, the moon out of the vast sea of life and death. This story is no different from what he saw. Water received a secret sky disk. The city was completely destroyed. The main character talks about how they might be in trouble soon. Cale replies that he will always and always support his mouth, and luck can be attracted. It's not unchangeable at all. And the head was lifted a bit of spirits, and after that, he asks to borrow the transformation gem for a while. The guy asks what it's for. Is it for practice? But no, William is going to close the entire state to the family from the outside world. But the pearl is not safe to use, so you have to be careful. The child realizes that the master planned it all from the beginning. This is where Paul awakens. He didn't think he would be able to reach the Ascension Sphere after all this time. Now he's his favorite student. The important thing to remember, Ascendant, is form. The uncle asks how the guy was able to come up with that, but the guy just waves it off without saying the exact answer. The protagonist also congratulates the Great Spear King on his promotion. William escorts him to the backyard and offers him a cup of tea. Paul can't believe the family has such dignity. The chapter has run out of the tea of immortality, so now it only offers the drink of enlightenment, even sometimes selling it. Uncle agrees to the offer and thanks him in return. But all of this is for a reason, of course, and the man asks to fulfill one request of his. He asks to use the imperial power in the city to reduce problems and help everyone. It's not hard for Paul to do this, so he gets right down to business. A few tens of thousands of stones will activate the heavenly pearl. They will be enough for the plan. Time is running 3,000 times faster this. It's just amazing. One day equates to 10 years. The old man warns that he can't guarantee 100% protection, but that's what William is here for. The system notifies the exposed ice root mutation and the birth of a demon master. He has options. Get rid of them, or quietly cultivate and teach them integrity. 5 children were born at the same time. Which one would become a demon master? The old man warns the ancestor that he will be the first to leave. In the labor ward, he is greeted by 2 girls. They seem happy to see him. The system shows perfectly ordinary information about the person. Among them, no one looks like the reincarnation of a demonic master. Even the spiritual roots look completely ordinary. Except that such people often ignore their loved ones, so the best solution is to get rid of the threat. The protagonist was almost approaching his goal, but at some point, he stopped. He is his descendant. At birth, children don't choose who they are born to be. Everyone should have a chance. Xuanming Pond is a great place to exercise with ice aura. Judd Sprig Cave has water energy. Now the Xiao family has 2 great cultivation sites. When it's been one day on the outside, it's been a whole 10 years on the inside. Camille offers the ancestor tea, calling him her husband. But in response, the one asks not to call him that. He is much older than the girl. This girl was never afraid of him and even learned to talk along with him. William's musings are interrupted by his son. He reports that almost all the materials for the pills have been exhausted. What should be done with the remaining ones? Then he orders 2 pills to be kept for Ethan, since his spiritual roots are bad, and the rest should be sent to David and Jack. Edward obeys his master's orders and leaves. After a while, it was definitely clear that the demon master was grey. His cultivation speed was too fast. The path a toddler chooses will be extremely difficult at first. The number of descendants exceeded 4,000, and for this he is rewarded 100 years of cultivation, 100,000 spiritual roots, and a divine spear. The protagonist is satisfied now. It is cultivation that is lacking. He had only advanced to the 7th level of divine transformation, and to obtain 3 more would require 100 years of cultivation. But now there is no hurry. It is better to think about the disaster and how to prevent it. The system detected a strong person in Xiao's family who is hostile. The enemy level is higher than William's. He sees a masked man in the mirror and immediately decides to verify information about him. Elder Paul has a couple questions for William, but he doesn't even have to ask for anything. Everything he needs the old man is ready to do in the best way. The masked man found out that the Qiao family did indeed have ascendant realms. No wonder they were acting. He should come back soon and report it. The Qiao family in the Liang dynasty is going down in flames. Now they have been destroyed, and the country will soon fall. Guardian Luke came and went very quickly, so the man thought that he had already gotten rid of the Xiao clan. But it's not very important. He came here to solve a family problem, and when he's done, he can choose any Qiao treasure he wants. The masked man is annoyed and says he's already notified the lord of the problem. This didn't please Gary very much. Some man with very strong energy appears. The demon master asks if that message is true, and his subordinate confirms. Gary is surprised. He says that this family will definitely be punished by the Lord. The man simply asks to follow him without saying anything else on the subject. Systems notifies the arrival of these 3 in a flying boat. The main character is upset. Why did this happen so quickly? Is the end for the family coming today? Looks like Lord Dominic is an armored cultivator. The demon promises not to kill Xiao's family today if the old man lets him take his weapons and swears to become a servant. But Paul doesn't agree to it. The entire southern region was completely destroyed by the name. Isn't that enough? The man has noticed that he has broken through to a new level and wants to test his strength. So Dominic is the first to attack. What will be the outcome of the battle? The demon gives him another chance to give his soul and be faithful. But he just refuses, and then Dominic promises to destroy the place. The weapon in Uncle's hands is magical. It is a true high-rank treasure. The Lord turns and asks his subordinates why they are standing. They need to go destroy the entire family. The masked man is the first to comply and fires off a huge cannon. Paul realizes that Xiao's family town cannot withstand such a blow. But you have to keep in mind the protagonist, who can use 2. The 2 punches collide with each other, preventing the defense from breaking through. Gary offers to partner up with one William, but he has a lot of ancestors coming to his aid. They are all so willing to help. The masked man was shocked. How could there be so many powerful cultivators in one family? The pair realizes they can't fight. This master has too much divine power. The head is later going to use the beads with the ceiling space to destroy all enemies. Suddenly a man falls from the sky. It looks like the battle was over. And the loser was Old Man Paul. Though he had improved, he could not resist such a word. William is even more unhappy. Everything is going as predicted. Dominic also offers to join the Jinghong Temple to his ancestor, or else he will meet the exact same fate. They could get along well if Xiao sent hundreds of well-qualified people every year. But the Xiao family had not lost yet, and they would fight to the end. Such news made the demon lord laugh. Their only assistant had failed. He's going to kill the most important one first, the family's forefather. The protagonist can only use his trump cards to stay out of danger. Kale casts a spell using the transformation bead. He is also helped by the descendants who are around to continue him. The former Empress is also involved. She grew up to be a decent person. The man realizes that it looks really bad, and he should take action soon. Since his life is in danger, he is going to put another man in harm's way. The demon lord flees, leaving his subordinate to fend for himself. Among his descendants are those men who are far braver than he. The warn spell completely defeats Luke. This kind of magic has very strong side effects. Part of it is the trump cards, kids. It's time to take advantage of the forbidden space gem. All the disciples of Jinghong Hall were sealed, but Dominic managed to escape. He barely saved his life. Even with the help of elixirs, it would take him a decade to go from herbs. The strike that was used cost him 500 years. That's a pretty big price to pay. Now the events take place in the Liang dynasty, the site of the Jinghong Hall gathering. Dominic asks for 2 guards to be sent out. What happened to him is really disgusting. The Lord promises that he will kill the men of the family one by one. He orders to send a message to the Lord in the Western Territory and several sects. They will definitely agree after all. There are the greatest treasures there. The subordinate is not very sure about the man's choice and is asked to think carefully. The demon realizes what he wants to say with this. Giving up these treasures is easy, but he has a great plan. Now Dominic will go to heal his wounds. When the guests arrive, he should be called. A mainland in the western region, the great leader Nathan sits on the throne. He wonders if Dominic would really be so kind as to give him the spiritual lance. The servant thinks his lord can easily defeat the demon like before. The subordinate understands his young master very well. The events take place in the Chiao family. The protagonist asks if there is any quick way to become stronger. The system responds that the better option is to have more children and notifies the birth of a strong person in the realm of divine transformation. In the magic mirror, William sees 2 people approaching the main gate. But what have the representatives of the sects, which are located as far west as the western region, forgotten here? These elders have something to discuss with the Xiao family. And Edward meets them, and without any animosity invites them inside. The Xiaos are a very large family, and they find this kind of reception a bit insulting. At the guest pavilion, Edward asks why they visited their clan. They wonder if a 9th foundation level person can become the head of a family. Are the assumptions of the effect exactly right? The representatives of the sect immediately say that and want to purchase their time treasures. Edward apologizes and says they have no intention of selling the treasure. The man is annoyed. How dare they talk to the elders of the great sects like that? But people keep insisting on their own and once again offer a very good price. The old man doesn't really want to give up such valuable items, so he refuses again. People then resort to threats and say that otherwise the family will simply be destroyed. Even on this, Edward doesn't fall for it and chases them away. They promise that within a month, a warship will arrive at the Xiao family. The protagonist reasons all these sects are very powerful and their influence extends throughout the kingdom. They would most likely reach the Ming kingdom in 10 days, during which time the family would turn another 100 years old. William thinks to seek refuge in other sects, but that could be very dangerous. Relying on others is a foolish decision. In an extreme case, the head asks if the system can protect the children if he dies, but gets a negative answer. William then asks to send a message to David to go into hiding for 5 days. The family is going to leave town in secret. With a plan in place, they can all walk away in one piece. But Edward is not going to run away. He is the head of the family and must remain so until the end. As long as the descendants are alive, they will continue to exist, which is why he must go. The main character will talk to the others and ask to leave as well. Edward is a little depressed and frustrated, but he can't resist orders. After a while, 3 large flying ships appeared on the horizon. One of them had the Ghost Emperor on it, the other the Thieving Heaven sect. Dominic says this family is just plain crazy. A multitude of people gathered over the city. They are in anticipation of something. The head of the sect notices that there isn't a soul in town. He doesn't understand what's going on. The demon lord is annoyed. He can't even tell if all the disciples of Jinghong Hall are dead. Keeper Eli approaches him. He says that most likely the Xiao family is afraid of throwing away their house. That's when the main character appears, his aura glowing and attracting attention. He appears before the emperors as an ancestor of the family, William. He turns to them and this time is willing to volunteer the treasure. Lord Nathan asks where is their precious possession. The protagonist replies that these things are right on top of him right now. Then the sect leader Podmir asks them to hand over the items, after which they will leave. The protagonist throws a bead and a spear right at them with fury and great force. All 3 of them raced toward the legendary weapon. The lodge asks you to stay out of the scheme. You have to destroy his family first. So he pounces on William, wanting to kill him. He easily hits his weapon about the target and cuts it in half. Surprisingly, it was very simple. No need for ordinary people to get into trouble. Nathan says that if he does not rush to help, the treasure will fall into the wrong hands. The first to seize the treasure was the Lord. The sect leaders turned their weapons against him. A bloody battle has begun. Something explodes in the sky, very much like fireworks. Here comes the protagonist's real body. It was clear to him from the very beginning that their alliance was only temporary. In order for the family to continue to divorce, we need to get rid of the Jinghong Hall, but it will be difficult to kill them. But William has a great plan in store, and now is the time to spring into action. Some strange energy appears. They think it's one of the Emperors. Except two strange things are happening. A shining tower appears. And behind her, ice crystals rise up. People are confused. They warn the Emperors that they are most likely trapped, but it's too late. This time he prepared himself and put all his accomplishments from the past century. The protagonist confirms the activation of the self-destruct. The little balls begin to glow and burn with yellow flames. There is a huge explosion that hits a large area. The Xiao family's entire city had turned into ruins. Only rubble remained. The protagonist somehow managed to escape by shrinking in size. It was all thanks to the nascent mental armor she'd managed to save him. The master kills all the emperors and gets this rewards: immortal sword, soul resurrection pill, divine power, and asura transformation. A few months later, the cultivator world of the southern and western territories turned upside down. No one knew the truth. The events take place 3 years later in the city of Huangchao. There were rumors among people that the Qiao family's former wealthy businessmen had suddenly built a large mansion and hosted weddings on a large scale. Today is also a very happy day. The chapter's 13th nephew also married a new girl. In the Xiao family, the woman asks not to take Eli away, but he will be better off in the ancestral land. The girl doesn't want it. She can't stand it. But the husband replies that all the relatives can finally get together within 10 years. He is obliged to show up there. A ship approaches and there are men in black standing on board. They have finally returned. The ship goes through a portal and into a mountainous area. They are now heading to the main peak of the place. That's where our protagonist is. He's meditating. Ethan was happy that he had accomplished his mission and 527 streams of family headed his way. The pre-doc didn't worry from the beginning, for he trusts his children. Today, his subordinates went out and heard the news about the divine liquid. This may help. The explosion 3 years ago did a lot of damage to the pearl, and as a result, the family suffered and was scattered to different countries. This item has been placed in a spiritual pool. It takes 10 years to complete the restoration. The news is that the Kunlun sect has discovered a divine liquid in their secret realm. There was a rat in that place who told the secret to the world, but his identity was revealed and he was killed. Regardless of whether it's true or false, they should try to get the thing. The head asks not to be disturbed and to go rest. He has a plan. After the subordinate, the son, Edward, enters the room. Looks like he's finally upped his gold core. Well, his classification is very low. It will take a lot of resources to finally break through the golden core. William is about to leave the family, but Edward says it's a lie and he just wants to get away from his aunt. The protagonist says he doesn't want to talk about her and wanted to know about David in general. He seems to have accomplished a lot and controls 15 queens. Also, a third of the Southern Territory has completely left Jinghong Hall's control. Also, Jack sent a letter. He snuck in and got the information. The head asks to go back and contact David and the others. William is going to cut off the power of Jinghong Hall and finally deal with him. His son also asks about leaving when it will happen, but it sounds like it's right now. Right after that, Camille comes in and asks where the gentleman is. If the protagonist wants to get the divine liquid, he needs to do it himself. Kunlun City is nestled under a mountain, with a large estate standing there. The guy asks if he too has come to participate in the sect selection. But William is going to infiltrate the cult, and he's his key to it. This man is approaching some wooden doors. After opening them, he calls out to his sister and brags about selling 3 more copies today. But the girl has forgiven not doing it, and he continues anyway. The guy asks not to talk about it. He sold a lot of spirit stones during this time. He doesn't understand why this female cultivator next to the boy looks so ordinary. She should be the main disciple of the sect. But here the system detects the presence of another system, the primary system. She is the main disciple of the cult. The girl's name is Lucy. The two arguing people greet the elder sister and the elder man. The older man asks if this is the person she confided in, after which she says he is ordinary and without merit. Is she sure of her choice? She agrees, but it's because a broken system forced her to do it. She is actually disgusted by him. People who only know how to manipulate and steal drive her to vomit. The head respects his student, so he simply honors the request to take his sister with him to the courtyard because it's very important. But the girl refuses, says she doesn't need it. She'll get everything on her own. But Lucy orders the two of them to go with her. The master warns that it's against the rules, but the girl asks for an explanation a little later. Resigned, the elder simply flies away with the others. Here the girl hears the voice of the main character. He can help solve her problems. She is willing to listen to him fully, so she allows him in. The lady thinks he's strong. Even coming this close, she didn't feel anything present. She asks if he can really solve her problems and what he wants for it. William gets straight to the point and says he wants the secret liquid. But Lucy says it's impossible. Even she doesn't wield that kind of power. He mentions the system and the fulfillment of the task at hand to her. The girl doesn't understand where he comes from, knows about it, still maybe he can help her. The lady once again asks what he wants but gets the same answer. Humbled, she promises to bring it here in 10 days. Her system seems to be changing her will a lot, so he'll be staying here for that time. He also recommends taking him into the secret realm of the sect. But here the girl refuses. It's too much of a price to pay. She doesn't want to mess with that person, so we need to find that liquid as soon as possible. 10 days later, the girl returns empty-handed. She has found no material or treasure. The same guy shows up on the horizon and says he really missed her. All these days he hadn't been able to see her, and it had finally happened. But Lucy has important things to do, so she just leaves and asks to wait and more. The guy asks to wait because he really missed her. He's really been uncomfortable lately, but as long as the lady likes it, he's willing to continue. A young man brings his sister Lucy to the students and says they bullied him. One of them admits it was his idea and apologizes. The girl passes on the treasure she has obtained in the secret realm to her partner. If the younger brother doesn't understand something, he can always turn to her. He knew Lucy wouldn't reject him, so he prepared a book of moisturizers in advance. But then the girl becomes much more serious. Has a realization come to her? She orders everyone to get away from her and leave her alone for a while. It's too scary to control the will, so it's best to find a senior as soon as possible. In the city under the mountain, they meet, and the lady is going to take him to a secret realm. Looks like he's going to have to wait a little longer, but he's not going to give up. The guards can let her go inside, but the companion can't. This person isn't from their sect, so it's best not to cause trouble. But the girl shows some kind of token and says she had the task of bringing this man in. A guy appears from behind and says he wants to go with his sister too. The guard can't let him in either, as he is only in the clearing stage and it would be very dangerous there. Lucy promises to guard her little brother and wants to take him along too. The girl has lost her will again and cannot subdue it back. Kunlun's secret realm, the view from there seems very beautiful. Although they say it's a special place, but its aura is only 3 times that of the outside world. But a powerful wind has quite a destructive force. 1,000 miles away is the soul nucleation stage where the divine liquid appears, but it will take at least 2 days to get there. The guy is too slow, so he asks to wait a minute and come down to the ground. In 100 miles, he had stopped 6 times, and this one was only because of the centennial key cleansing the grass. Annoyed, the protagonist asks the boy what's wrong. But he replies why not pack good stuff when he meets them. If there is any objection, he may not follow them. The main character takes the guy by the throat and asks him if he's bullying him. Lucy, with hearts in her eyes, really begs to let her little brother go. William doesn't want to waste much time, and if it happens again, he'll kill him. Malik realizes that Lucy doesn't want to part with this man, so he will force him to get rid of him. 1 day has already passed. The day is replaced by a beautiful night. Then, there are destructive circles of hurricanes. Even the Emperor will find it hard to escape, so it's better to wait it out in the cave. But the guy wants to go out with the girl for a walk, and she doesn't even mind. They retreat to the other side of the cave for privacy. William doesn't understand why you have to worry so much and just don't speed up. The guy is trying his best to seduce the girl. The protagonist secretly observes them and tries to stay out of sight. There's some kind of weird blue beam going through the guy's head. Lucy is asked if he killed him, but how? He promised to solve the problem, and if any trouble happened to her, it would be bad. The girl asks if she will die after him, but William denies it. Lucy wonders how he did it without being. She had contemplated such a development, but was afraid. The system detected that a great power in the revival stage was approaching, as well as 8 other powerful people. The protagonist was surrounded on all sides, not giving passage. Lucy asks why he's looking for the divine liquid. People think they can capture a man at the 5th level of the ascension stage. But it's just plain ridiculous to be so arrogant and underestimate your opponent. Taking advantage of some sort of spell, William becomes the next target of the broken system. Lucy tells her master that her purpose has suddenly changed. The master replies that he is the man, and if they don't keep their word, they shouldn't blame him. The man orders the girl to approach him, but as long as revenge is at hand, she can keep her will. The master admits defeat and asks Lucy to be released, promising the divine liquid in return. The girl dutifully hands over the divine elixir. William recognizes that this system is very useful and powerful. After he has gotten what he wants, must change Lucy's task. The new man in the system has to be Hunter. Lucy calls the main character her brother with tears in her eyes. He becomes uncomfortable with this and decides to do things his own way. That is, just escape with her through teleportation magic. The subordinate asks the elder what they will do next. Masters didn't expect the system to affect Lucy so much. They're together like a real date flying under a starry sky. Now she's not going to leave her baby brother so easily. And William even really likes this title. It feels like he's being subdued. The people following them can no longer find their trail. The master is thinking about something and keeps repeating William's name. She might even have to give up on this student. Too much trouble. Others disagree. She is the most talented of the last 100 years. They have to get Lucy back by all means. Everyone from the cult is ready to band together and bring the girl back alive. To the master comes the realization of the great Emperor of Destruction. Finding himself in what confusion, the legendary ancestor of the Chiao family is an incredible person. It was already deep night. High at the bottom of you, the moon appeared. The girl touches William in various inappropriate places. Well, you can tell by the look on a man's face that she's not just going to walk away, retreating to a silent place where no one can see them. They are not dealing with needs. Has it taken the progenitor a long time to find a woman? The sun slowly begins to rise, the couple lying peacefully under a warm blanket. In 2 days, the host's total conquest only increased by 30%. But what happens if you win completely? Looks like the host will then be love-bonded with Lucy. The system is detecting a battle-class spacecraft. It belongs to the Gingong Hall. Best not to mess with them. But he doesn't yet know what their goal is or what they want to do. It's time for the man to go, so he wakes up the girl. Except she asks me to wait and take her with me. William isn't going to dissuade her and asks the system to find Chiao's closest descendant. It turns out to be Tyler, and he is near the Shushan tomb. William stops the flying boat. The man asks the reason for this. He states that this is his road, and they can't go through here, only for money. People don't understand where the road and trees came from when they were flying in the air. The subordinate wants to kill these people, but the keeper stops them. When the protagonist is asked how many he wants, he replies, 1 billion spirit stones. The man doesn't seem to know what he's talking about. They participated in an auction and raised less than the amount named. But in any other case, William is not going to miss them. There is a huge explosion that completely destroys the ship. They only turned out to have 200 million spirit stones, but that was also enough. They're going to go to a qualifying auction in Mount Shushan. Every time a sword tomb is opened, some of the items are auctioned off to replenish spiritual material resources. This time it was open to all of the Shushan swordswomen. When the auction began, everyone offered different prices, 30 million, 35. The gamble continues. The bet has already reached 140 million. The Podmere sect is offering 180 million. Lucy doesn't understand why he just keeps quiet like that. He shows the ring and says that thanks to him, this sect will not get a quota. For the first place in the sword tomb, the Kuklun sect had offered 190 million. The judge wondered if anyone else would offer more. Only huge sects can offer so many spiritual gems. Young sect master Podmere O'Connor raises the stakes to 200 million. But then Lucy intervenes and offers twice the price offered. To offer that price is crazy, except it's not too much of a problem for her. The man didn't expect them to throw away so many spirit stones just because of a petty argument. The auction of the first quota is over. The second one begins. William didn't expect Lucy to be so bossy, that's great. If Connor wants his face back, he should offer a high price right away. But the girl again offers the price twice as much. Though William has no shortage of spiritual stones, his soul is just aching. Master praises her favorite student. She showed up at the auction open and didn't even ask for anything. Connor isn't afraid of losing face. Qualification is the most important thing. He doesn't believe Lucy can take all 21 places. In each auction, Lucy comes out the winner, 5th, 6th place. The head of the Thief Heaven sect, Valir, is watching all of this closely. After another double promotion, he goes out of his mind. Aren't they afraid of the consequences? But the judge who conducts the auction doesn't allow any more expression and asks the man to shut up. Anyone disturbing the peace, much less threatening participants, will be penalized. That leaves the last spot, 7th place, which will be the final battle. Connor offers 200 million again. He doesn't believe Lucy still has any spiritual stones left. But she's offering 400 million again. Is the sect really that rich? The main character was willing to throw away tens of billions of spirit stones from the beginning. Over the years, they had collected over 60 billion. Connor offers 500 million spirit stones. But the girl doubles the bet again and offers the whole 1 billion. Frustrated with life, Connor turns around and walks away. In the 9th auction, already Valor offers a higher sum of 475 million. But here too, he gets beaten and he too walks away offended. Lucy has almost spent 10 billion already. Who will be responsible for that amount of money? William is going to leave the auction and recoup some of his losses. He gets in front of the ship, stopping it. Valor is in a bad mood, who dares to stop him. But before he can make a single move, he finds himself chained in an ice crystal. He realizes that the man who did this possesses the steps of ascension. He needs to escape. William used the forbidden sealing pearl. With this, he kills the Emperor and gets the resurrection god pill. If he had 3 more years, the Xiao family wouldn't leave the city and flee. After he goes to Padme's sect, the head is the first one about to come out against him. But you don't have to do that. He dies instantly. The girl says that the auction is over, and now all that is left to do is to wait for the location of the quotas. Lucy's men have already arrived at the hall, but she asks them to wait. The protagonist admits that their auction is targeting sects, and if they have broken the contract, they should be owed half of the stones back. The man ponders that even if he pays back half of it, that would leave 4 billion, still a very large sum. But the judge is not going to be so quick to agree to such an offer. The master asks to gather 17 people for the 17 places they have purchased and go with him. That's when Ethan comes out in front of his ancestor to intercede. But William, in order not to cause a stir, agrees. He asks to gather 16 people and leave a place among them for Tyler. The offspring obeys the order. He feels better. They can smash the table and fight, but just getting spirit stones you can't. Events are unfolding on the Shushan Ascension platform. This time, 7 sword tombs were opened. Elegance, respect, courage, nature, sincerity, emperor, and charity. They can be there for a maximum of 3 years, but what they get is up to them. Now he and his descendants are ready to go to that grave of the sword. They decided to visit the elegant tomb first. Everything looks peaceful inside. It was clear from the beginning, something the judge wasn't going to give back, so he's going to collect absolutely everything. The girl asks how he can do that. One person can only get 1 flying sword. But William had a plan. His clones have independent lives, and because of that, taking all the flying swords would not be a problem. He activates the divine power and orders the sword to come to him. A divine weapon appears near him. It seems to be the base of this tomb. That's when the sword spirit Reed appears and tells the master that he's gone too far and collected absolutely everything. He shouldn't worry. It makes sense, since William owns him now. Now they're going to go to the next tomb. The grave, which was originally filled with birdsong and the fragrance of flowers, instantly turned into an empty mountain. Getting rich, the Shushan sect would no longer have to live a busy life for the next 100 years. But then a subordinate comes in and says something bad is going on. Through the portal you can see that Reed has disappeared somewhere. They're getting kind of uneasy. They realize that it was the progenitor, or rather the one who enriched their entire family, who took him away. For some reason the man thinks he's a loser. He seems to have underestimated his opponent. How could he assemble the esteemed sword of the tomb? How? The subordinate realizes that the grave of the sword won't be able to contain him and needs to be stopped as soon as possible. But they can't do that, because all the seats are already taken. In addition, if he takes another sword, that one will come back. Here they finally found in the new tomb of the sword, respect. And the protagonist asks to wait for him from downstairs so they can finish everything as soon as possible. Again, he orders the swords to come to him, hundreds of weapons falling from the sky. Sword Aubrey greets the master. She is also the head of this place. The master is shocked. He thinks it's an illusion. A real person is not capable of wielding 2 swords. He is just as likely to place a weapon in the pearl as a past weapon. The servant asks for a quick solution before the next grave is opened. Even the director can't get in. There used to be a few seats reserved, but they were in a difficult financial situation. The only option left that can help is to attack graves with sound. The people of Shushan realize their mistake and ask the protagonist to show mercy. They are even willing to give up the spirit stones provided to them. William liked his lucrative and greedy look better. The master apologizes and promises to give back absolutely everything they received. 8 million was spent, and there's still a lot of good stuff left here, so he's not going to retaliate just yet. The Shushan sect is even willing to agree to any 3 wishes, but William only needs one. He offers cooperation to defeat the Padme sect, the Thieving Heaven sect, and the Jinghong Hall. There are approximately 5,000 people in the Xiao family, and to compete with these 3 forces requires many years of training. He head ace agrees to his ancestors' request and takes the Heavenly Tao Oath. The protagonist calls the master a truly remarkable man. Ace is convinced that he possesses unrivaled divine power. The events take place in the forbidden zone of the Padme sect. People gathered to discuss something very important: reincarnation in their clan, the strongest divine power that cannot be achieved without special blood. The guy starts talking very fast and not intelligible, so he is asked to slow down a bit. Connor was unable to escape. He was killed in just 1 blow by an unknown person. People don't realize who can go against their sect directly. The person asks if there were any peculiarities. They will help figure out the identity. The chapter tells us that the weapon he used was very similar to Canlin's spear. The subordinate assumes it's the Chiao family people, only they dare to go against them like 3 years ago. Their family has become the Valley of the Emperor's destruction, but it's been a long time, so it's worth sending someone to scout. People gathered outside the Kunlun sect to meet the head. The man asks what the two elders have come for and what they want. Looks like they're here to hoard divine liquid. For that, they can guarantee safety. But the head replies that they have no more divine liquid. They say they passed it down to the Xiao family's forefather. They still have time to prepare, but there are still many chances that the Destruction Emperor can destroy the sect. One of the elders thanks them for being honest with them. Their first target would be the leader of the Thief Heaven sect. Now was the perfect time to attack. To convince the protagonist of this, Ace tells him about all the cult's plans for the near future. Right now, the Vorva Heaven sect was discussing their future plans in a secret room. Someone suggests asking the Podmere sect for help, but they've already been sent a message. They can't do more. Even so, they have a force of mountain guards to hold out for reinforcements. The report came in, the Shushan sect had attacked, and 4 districts had already fallen. Their flying boat is thousands of miles away. There are many cultivators there. It is impossible to determine their rank. It's really disgusting how they could start a full-scale war. Shushan will definitely pay for it. People start to panic. The problem is coming too fast. It's too late to run. They must go out and face their enemies with dignity. Coming out, he asks if Ace is really ready to fight him to the death. Yes, today is the day when the Thieving Heaven sect will be destroyed. The beam heads toward the manor, but a shield appears. The leader says they won't be able to break through 8 times the defense. It's a waste of energy. But he asks for the help of his men. Together they can do it. The rays become more numerous and powerful, all of them directed at the same target. If it continues like this, the consumption of spirit stones will increase. Wouldn't it be better to go and kill everyone? But the leader commands silence and just follow orders. Cultivators are also connected to the shield support. William seems to be inside the barrier, and to break it down, you need to know the key points. The elders have a high level. They are definitely guarding one of the important points. So he decides to kill it first with his first powerful spell. There is an explosion, and only a spirit manages to get out of there. He was indeed a cry for the destruction of the formation. No matter how strong the defense was, they were too relaxed inside. The leader notices the Emperor's ancestor. He wonders how he got here. The situation is out of control. We need to run. Some shadow appears in the sky. He certainly won't be allowed to do that. The formation is broken. The subordinates don't know what to do and call for a leader. William tells the man that people like him seek only survival. They don't care about other people. But as long as the leader is alive, the Thief Heaven sect will return sooner or later. Reciting some kind of spell, he sacrifices his body. The leader promises to mercilessly kill the protagonist. A large number of ships are approaching. Could it be reinforcements? The 3 major forces unite again. This time the Xiao family will come to an end. Before they can win, they are already starting to divide territory and resources. In the Xiao family valley, some people are looking for the head. We are again shown the battle between the cult leader and William. There is a strange dark breath coming from the man. This is the grief stage. The protagonist uses the dojo's heaven and earth technique. The leader asks what divine power he still has. Does he really want to use space and time? A dying man doesn't need to know much. William just needs a little time. The cult leader is in a bad way. All his trump cards have been used. The man can't catch up and can't escape. He didn't expect to be in this situation. Then, in a desperate situation, he decides once again to use his blood. Having stolen the essence of the body, the sect leader becomes the foreign minister of the body and the earth. He wants to crush the protagonist with his hand, but it's too obvious. But William creates a large number of clones of himself. They all say at the same time, the sooner he kills them, the sooner he dies. Except it's too loud. When the sutra's action ends, he will definitely perish. On a surprise, the leader admits defeat and asks to talk. Why would he talk to William? What good would it do him? The sect leader is willing to give up everything he has, including the secrets of the Thief Heaven sect, and in return asks to be allowed to live. But the progenitor refuses. It would mean he would miss his prey. If he somehow loses to the Chiao family, then the Emperor of Destruction will die with him and no other way. That beam will chase him the whole time until it finishes him off. The protagonist prepared in advance and drank the life pill. For winning over the first strong man, he gets an immortal spirit of grief, a guardian ring, and a star hand. The pre-doc senses that his TU is in trouble, and so he should come back soon. Reinforcements came when everything was already destroyed. Once out, they all collectively don't understand what happened here. A man attacks and curses the Shushan students. But they're not going to set themselves up that easily and block the kick. Ace replies that these methods of killing are very sneaky. Lord Christian Zala Jingzong says their reputation is already ruined, and the small Shushan sect says something. This is where the argument begins. How dare he speak such nonsense in front of Shushan's students? Christian is very pissed off and can't keep himself under control anymore. This land has been peaceful for too long. They see the power. Since the previous sect director Shushan recently died, he as a junior is very reckless. A great battle has begun against the two clans, each ready to kill the other. This special sword can crush 10,000 warriors. It's insanely satisfying. Ace has never had such a comfortable fight before. After seeing this, the sect heads want to talk. They are even willing to divide the resources of Thieves' Heaven equally. The Shushan clan is willing to make a deal if they give up at least half. Others say it's too much and they're just plain stale. But he can afford it since he has a contract with the Xiao family. Afterward, they immediately agree, unanimously, without argument. Then it was time to sit down at the negotiating table and discuss ownership of resources. The events unfold in the Xiao family valley, two people surrounded by dozens of magic swords. It seems the Xiao family is not very happy to see these people. But one of the elders asks his colleague to shut up. This place is extremely violent. They can be killed here in an instant. It's getting hard for them to hold on. They need to retreat soon and report everything. A large lightning bolt forms in the sky. This is the formation of the Immortal Execution Sword, Stage 2. They just came for the divine liquid. How could it threaten their lives? The protagonist has already reached the family valley. A dozen days have passed since the message was sent. The main thing is that nothing happened. William is wary. A slight whiff of the grief stage can be heard somewhere. Looks like the two men were quite strong, but they were a bit on fire. Progenitor is going to pick them up and question them thoroughly. That's when Camille shows up. She's very excited to meet her husband. The girl asks if the booty is his from behind. But William doesn't answer and asks you not to call him that anymore. He's an ancestor. Camille scrutinizes the man with a serious look, after which she asks him if he had someone besides her, only he denies it. She doesn't believe, and so she uses what is sure to find out the truth. But the protagonist stops her and confesses everything. The girl is very upset and runs away from him. Edward wondered if the gentleman was going to go and comfort her. The progenitor still has business to attend to. He needs to meet with Kale soon and give the divine liquid. Inside the cave, Kale guards the pearl and recovers little by little. Watching the progeny's efforts, the progenitor smiles. But it's time to get down to business. Just one drop of the magic potion. And the pill looks brand new, not a scratch. Kale is very happy to see him coming and thanks him for his help. Since the spiritual treasure was damaged because of the ancestor, it is up to the ancestor to repair it himself. The main character looks a bit depressed. There's nothing else he can do. Kale didn't have a father or mother before. It's a treasure of a life, so he asks not to feel guilty about what happened. The forefather was even somehow uncomfortable, almost crying in front of his grandchildren. Thanks to Kale, the heavenly pearl had worked again. Now a year in the Xiao Valley was equal to one day in the outside world. For his descendants' endeavor, the man wants to find a way to extend his life, for it took Kale as much as 500 years to save his family. This book was obtained by killing the second elder of the Thief Heaven sect. There are many recipes written down there. Longevity pills can only continue the life of a person at the golden immortal stage, but that sounds a bit pointless. Since the Emperor's record was given by the system, William must believe in it. Moreover, it would be possible to improve the medicine. For that, he called Arya. Perhaps she could help in some way. The protagonist asks if she can, familiarize herself with it, and improve it if possible. The girl picks up the book and really wonders where he got it. She says she is only at the 6th rank of alchemist and is unable to create an immortal pill. William insists that she take the job because it's very important. But Arya still refuses. You need at least an 8th grade alchemist to understand the formula. The progenitor realizes that the contents of this book are unusual and care must be taken. He looks a little depressed because he's not as good as the hosts of the other systems. But now it's development time for the family and himself. 3 days passed. Something exploded on the family's property. These people's bodies are indeed strong. They can endure the stages of grief. The charred man seems to still be able to breathe. Therefore, the protagonist asks to continue the experiment. After that, there is again a large and powerful explosion. In the blink of an eye, it had been 4 months since William started perfecting the pills. He had already reached 5th grade. He never managed to refine the low-level pills, probably due to their incompatibility with him rather than his lack of talent for alchemy. Right now, the cauldron is preparing pills. The protagonist is in waiting. He finally managed to avoid the furnace exploding, but everything turned to ash. The The protagonist gets a great idea. Just rub this mixture into the pills themselves. He gives them to those two people. What will be the effect this time? No one died or exploded. Is that really a success? While the revenge cauldron is hot, the next batch of pills should be prepared. The two woke up. There was already hope that they were saved, but it was too early to rush. They didn't feel the method of imprisonment, and while Revenge decides to pretend to be dead, to then take the chance and escape. Things went wrong for William again. Even though the method was the same, it didn't work out. The men call William cruel. He did use them for experimentation. Even after a long time, no progress was seen, so he decides to make a poison pill. People can't take it anymore, it's sheer torture. They decide to go to the man and tell him that the pills are being done wrong. William turns around with an evil grin. Have they finally spoken? One of the subjects asks if he's known about it for a long time, but the protagonist just didn't want to get rid of such specimens. The souls begged to be let go. They didn't want to antagonize from the beginning and came from the Qingxuan Holy Land. Also adding that the poison pill technique must be powerful, and because of his gentleness, it doesn't work out. The elder is outraged as to why his colleague is telling this, but if things are left as they are, they will die. They aren't afraid of the usual poison pills, but the ones William makes are very strange, and each one is unique. If they want to teach the protagonist something, he's willing to listen. It turns out that these people are the best-ranked 9 alchemists, Gabriel and Andrew. They're one of the top 10 in the world. Why didn't they say so before? People are already starting to think he wants to kill them after saying that. But the forefather doesn't listen to them and asks if they can improve one thing. The elders realize they can't get out of there that easily. When they see the recipe for the immortal pill, they are very surprised. No one has ever seen such a thing before. William asks them to pull themselves together. Will they be able to do it? If you need to improve, it's possible. But there's a problem. Their bodies are severely damaged and their minds are in a state of change. The elders can't do this even if they wanted to. In that case, the protagonist asks not to worry about it and shows another important concentration pill. This is a great opportunity for people from the Holy Land to familiarize themselves with priceless secrets. William asks why they are laughing. If they don't want to teach him, they can eat a couple more of his creations. There has to be talent to do it. It will be very difficult. It had been 10 years in Xiao City, as it had only been 10 days in the outer city. The people who come will find out that the Xiao family really does have a law of time. For defeating the Thieving Heaven sect, they receive a great deal of resources. The family has been in hiding for over 3 years, and many of the materials are hard to get hold of, and this solves all the problems. He also got a shoe that contains the laws of the land. It should be sent to David and other descendants. For a dozen years, Camilla called him husband, and when Lucy arrived, the former was very much offended. The girl keeps referring to the protagonist as her brother. He resigns himself to his fate and asks the elders to prepare a pill of concentration. During this time, William had only become a third-grade alchemist. Even a pig could be trained to level 6 in 10 years. But are they overindulging themselves, or do they want to go back and eat a couple more poison pills? The elders promise to go and silently prepare the pill right now. Edward reports that David has sent an urgent message. The situation in the Southern Territory is critical. The progenitor was careless, having lived for 3 years in peace and tranquility. He forgot about all the problems. Also in the letter, David emphasizes that he was attacked by a man with an aura of grief. He almost died. Crossing borders at the Ascension stage and above requires a transmigration compass governed by the 10 Great Holy Lands. The protagonist thinks that Hol Jinghong has decided to infiltrate the 10 Holy Lands. Jack is also at risk of being a spy under the nose of the Master of Grief. When his descendants are at risk, he can't stay away. William turns to Ace and asks if he has time to travel. But he doesn't understand why now, after all the plans were to take over the underworld sect. Though if there would be spirit stones, why not? The progenitor promises to divide the spoils 50-50. Except they have to leave today, or rather now. Lucy persistently asks to take her along. The protagonist is not going to argue. Then, suddenly comes an alert from the system. The number of descendants has reached 6,000. For this, he gets a lot of good rewards. Camille is still angry. She's the head wife, and no one dares take that title away. Edward blesses his father and wishes him luck. 2 women in one place is bad. There were many people gathered outside the Qin Imperial City. The people are worried. Their Uncle David is not waking up, but they don't give up hope. The main thing is to protect the Lord, so the second man decides to go out and distract the enemy. The Chiao family is not afraid of death. They will go to the end for the sake of their comrades. People underestimate others, saying that without David, they are nothing. The strongest of them all is a person at the soul nucleation stage, so the opponents believe that the battle will be quick. That's when the 3,000 sword Dao spell appears out of nowhere. Some 2 men killed the villains with ease. Looks like it's Aunt Lily and Uncle Mark. They're allies. The man tries to escape with David, but a flying ship appears above them. An unknown person is there, not even his essence can be seen. He orders his subordinate to catch David without a scratch. The servant promises that his order will be carried out to the best of his ability. He heads toward the 2 of them with great speed and saber in hand. The man uses the 9 turns of the heavenly spirit technique. The guard was deeply wounded, but he didn't back down for a second. The unknown man calls the young man useless. He can't even do such an easy errand. Now he's annoyed and is going to take the case himself. In an instant, he appears beside the guard and takes him by the throat. This trip to the southern region was really worth it. They got a medicinal spirit. The man says with his last strength that the master will avenge him. But there's one small problem. He's now in the hands of an unknown person and he can't get out. The student apologizes. He was incompetent and let everyone down. This time, the unknown man orders to find the soul collectors and find out where Xiao's family is. Except you don't have to look for someone for long. William won't give up his grandchildren and his apprentice. The protagonist asks to let them go, or else the enemies will say goodbye to their lives. The man says just the 3 of them won't be enough to win. But Ace asks not to count him out, for he was just passing through. Ace doesn't want to fight against a man in the grief stage, but after hearing that, they'll be given all the spirit stones. He agrees right away and says he can do it alone. Unknown blocks the attack while keeping others trapped. The attacks keep coming. Next, he's being chained in an ice crystal. And then the man breaks it down by calling others ants. The unknown realizes that the protagonist owns space law, and that's no joke. He summons the power of his heavenly divine wheel. This energy overpowers all attacks of the unknown and dazzles. David and the apprentice find themselves behind the protagonist's back. Ace and William are a great team. This way is the best against grief. The progenitor's breath of grief was too weak, but he still managed to do the spell. Asking the enemy questions in the midst of battle is very clever. The subordinate cannot mess with such powerful people in any way, or he will be torn to shreds. The man fighting Lucy too doesn't understand how having a level lower, she can stand up to him. There's a reason she's considered the best student. She even knows the 9 transformations of Kunpeng. Moreover, the thing on the chest is obviously a spiritual level treasure. With such powers, it's almost impossible to harm her, so the servant decides to escape. But one must wait for the right moment, and in the meantime, revenge make it look like he's chasing her. Such an attack can't do any harm in the grief stage, but it can't be stopped. The spiritual sea in William Dantian is huge, and Ace is its perpetual engine as long as spiritual stones are available. The battle has been going on for about 3 days now. Everyone is pretty exhausted. Unknown doesn't think something is clean here, so he wants to escape as soon as possible. Suddenly he feels a stage of grief. Where did it come from? Finally, Gabrielle and Andrew get out. William is so cruel that he forces them to act covertly. Looks like the white-haired man with the cold face is poisoned. With a slight movement of his hand, he takes the man in shackles. They say the main reason for his arrival is to hand over a pill and get a prescription for it. The protagonist smiles and raises the bet. If he kills him, he'll give the whole too. It's hard for them to kill the strongest person going through the tribulation, but easy for them to deal with someone who is on it. The man warns that when he is killed, Hol Jinghong will destroy them. A quick arrow flies out. It kills the enemy in an instant. The elders were annoyed. How dare someone threaten holy ground? The condition is fulfilled, and now William must give them the recipes. Before doing so, he wants to hand a co-worker some seemingly ordinary ring. Ace is very grateful to progenitor Xiao. Still making an alliance with him was a great idea. The sky begins to crack. This seems to be the Mahayani stage heavenly discernment spell. Since the person was killed at the grieving stage, it could not help but attract the attention of Jinghong Hall. Now with the Mahayama stage, Xiao's family will definitely not be able to cope, so the system offers absolute blindness at the cost of 2,000 years of life. William agrees, as there is no other choice. A huge eye watches over everything from the sky. It is difficult to hide from its gaze. That's the scene it saw. The main character wasn't there. The elders are delighted and thankful, for they too could have been exposed. Camille wishes to be like the stars and the moon, shining brightly every night. The girl is so distressed that tears are streaming from her eyes. The protagonist realizes that the girl has made the decision to die because of him. He heads toward Camille with the last of his strength about to stop. The girl and the man's eyes met. Did he have time to? She is happy and smiling. Thank God William is alive. The progenitor takes the young lady in his arms. She is in a faint. The main character insists that the system find a way to save her as soon as possible. He starts begging the system when he gets rejected. She has mercy and bestows a red ribbon that can change people's places. The treasure requires the ability of telepathy to use it. The man wraps this tape around his arm and asks the girl to wake up. All the people gathered and looking down, what happened? William doesn't understand what's wrong with his voice, and isn't he lying over there? After looking at his body, he realizes that he has switched it with Camille. It's impossible to convey the shock of the progenitor. The protagonist calls the system to see if his powers are gone, but it responds, everything is normal. The system is tied to it, and from changing bodies won't change that. That's because of the support provided. Its level has been downgraded. But William has no right to complain, for he himself begged out of helplessness to save the girl. He's not used to suddenly transforming into a woman yet. Is there any way to get the bodies back? The system responds that this can be done when Camille's soul is fully restored. The subordinate asks if everything is okay and why the foreman isn't awake yet. Immediately after saying those words, the girl in William's body rises up. She's annoyed how dare someone pretend to be her. But after looking at myself, I realize what was wrong. She looks around and is about to take off her belt. Except the protagonist stops her curiosity. If his disciples or elders saw this, it would be impossible to wash away the shame. Smiling, the girl offers to do the same for him and look at the beautiful body. The protagonist is pissed off. How can she suggest something shameful, so much so in a public place? Ace, watching this, guessed it all. They switched bodies. William offers to get out of here as soon as Lucy returns. Now he hopes the girl won't make any trouble in this body. After a while, Lucy shows up and hugs her favorite sibling. It's over. With Camille's temper, she'll beat another girl to death. But surprisingly, Camille behaves normally and thanks her for a job well done. The magic treasure of time will be able to heal all the injuries as soon as possible, so it's worth hurrying. Here they had already arrived at the gate in the Xiao family's valley. It was time for the elders to leave. They had been ordered to return to the Holy Land. Relying only on himself, one must further practice alchemy, as Camille and David need pills, which is a great opportunity. Everyone gathered in the Mountain Gate Square to announce the big news. It's a clan competition today, and while my dad doesn't really care for these ceremonies, but Camille replies that it's okay, and if they try harder this year, the reward will be doubled. Edward can't believe that the ancestor actually took a woman and flew straight to Camilla's palace. He doesn't know the whole truth yet. After the end of the clan competition, they have to go back and have as many children as possible. That's an order. Lucy arrives home, and David asks if he can go back to her first. The protagonist lets him go without any problems. The crowd doesn't understand why Camille is taking this so lightly. Anton comes next and addresses the master. He wants to go check on the Wudao tea tree. Willia agrees without a second thought. People are even more perplexed that you look at why the student called him master and not the master's wife. What's going on? The protagonist asks the system what Lucy will do to Camille, but he's asked that question more than 10 times. William is very afraid. He can't even imagine what will happen next. The system asks to relax and just make a plan, but it seems her character has changed a bit. The servants are discussing Camilla. She lost her love and didn't even return to her own palace, but flew to Ancestor Xiao. The protagonist orders the two girls to be followed to make sure they don't do something strange. The concentrated immortal grade spirit pill promotes the development and treatment of Camille's injuries. What you need for preparation is a purifying herb, a 7th grade lily, 2 snow fruits. 10 days have passed since the protagonist's experiments. The furnace hasn't exploded yet. Finally, the talents in alchemy are showing up. That's the most progress I've made in a while. Although the result wasn't perfect, the pills were only half black. It could also be because of his new body, which has a soul transformation stage and can't support pill recycling. He hadn't succeeded in the past even though the techniques and steps were correct. Maybe his body was poisonous? If he wants to improve the immortality pills, he needs to improve the condition of this body. William feels discomfort and a strong desire to take a bath. He used a body cleansing spell earlier. Women are really strange. Should he inform Camille of his question and wash up? Camille, along with Lucy, head to her palace. But then Edward shows up and tries to shout to his father. Stepping inside, he sees a strange picture. It seems an ancestor has fallen. Camille asks why the old man needed her. The subordinate doesn't understand why he won't send Lucy back home, but she replies that she really liked the girl and she's not going to do it. Edward says that someone sent a secret letter and it could be very important. Then the girl asks if there's a plan. The subordinate replies that there is no plan. It's all up to him. He begins to suspect something amiss. His father is acting differently. Well, they decide to quickly gather the Xiao family's main forces for this operation. Looks like the protagonist managed to take a rose petal bath after all. He felt better and could continue to cultivate further. It is not the usual barrier of the kingdom, but lack of experience. In the writings of the three lives, blindly working behind closed doors will create such obstacles. Should he go out and get some experience with such a pretty face? Looks like someone came to visit the protagonist. It's Mr. Ace. Looks like he has something to say. He wants to talk business between their families. But William refuses. It doesn't interest him at the moment. Except the man still holds out some kind of turquoise balloon. Looks like this is the breath of heavenly tribulation, an extremely rare item. This treasure will allow tribulation masters to level up. Ace says this reaction is really adorable, but it's just a habit of the body. The man they killed had it, and he thought long and hard about it and decided that the best solution was to give it to him. A rather unusual offer. What does the man want in return? It's all because of the time treasure. He wants to send some of his disciples to the Xiao family to practice. But the protagonist says he doesn't need the thing and can keep it. He can only accept students by marriage. There aren't many female disciples in the Shushan sect, and he's not going to give them away. The protagonist replies that they need more than just women. The descendants can't sit in the Qiao family all the time. They need to evolve too. If he accepts the offer, William will allow 10 of Shushan's students to come to his practice. Ace eventually agrees, but marriage is a matter of fate, and the younger generations must decide for themselves. William suggests a blind date, which requires bringing about 200 people. Shushan agreed to this proposal. It would help get rid of the Podmere sect and Jinghong Hall as soon as possible. The protagonist heads to Camilla's palace and asks to take Lucy with him, then sets off on his journey. In Xiao's palace, many people gathered around Edward. A man makes a statement that his father is no longer a father and something has happened to him. Some find it suspicious, others just the opposite. But Edward says it's different. He doesn't even know about the plan to close the area. This plan was agreed upon with his father a long time ago, but now he's completely forgotten about it. One of the servants asks what he means and how should they proceed. The son suggests capturing the progenitor and torturing him to get a confession. In her palace, the girl decided to sit down and relax. She is pleased that Lucy is finally gone and can now scrutinize her new body. She's uncomfortable, but you can't let an opportunity like this go to waste. Camille would be embarrassed to show his face if anyone found out about it. The girl notices that the spiritual energy nearby is unusual. There are at least thousands of people outside the palace. The formation of the golden castle of the 8 gates. Could it be that the Jinghong Hall broke into the Valley of the Family? But it's all Edward's doing. He wants to find out what happened to his father. Not everyone in the family knows about the body swap, but she can't just come clean. The subordinate says that if she resists, he cannot guarantee to keep her alive. It's a big misunderstanding, but Camille isn't going to explain anything. The entire palace has turned to a large block of ice, which will help contain them a bit. The girl thinks it's all the protagonist's fault. If he had taken her with him when he left the valley, none of this would have happened. Rumors has also turned into ice crystals, so he asks for the fire disciples to be summoned as soon as possible. Even Kale doesn't understand why the ancestor won't tell the truth, but runs. David comes over and whispers something in Edward's ear. He then falls to his knees and says that, not deserving to be with his son, he should die for such a mistake. The observing servants are at a loss as to what is going on, the patriarch looking broken. Last time Camille left the Xiao family to find William, this time he has to do it. Something strange is happening in the sky and the girl ponders who it could be. Jane Doe is being chased by approximately 29 people. 5 of them are in the integration phase. If this continues, she will die. The lady asks Camille to help her. Her life depends on it. The woman says that if she is rescued, she will sacrifice her soul. After that, the protagonist's wife agrees and uses the spell. The people who chased after the unknown are going to retreat. They won't be able to withstand the ascension stage. But too late, the spears pierce each pursuer in turn. The girl just grabbed the first opportunity that came along and didn't even expect to meet an expert. Jane Doe recognizes Camille as an ancestor, the Emperor of Destruction. She asks if he knows her Layla, but the wife can't recall anything like that. If this girl doesn't get better, she's really going to die. A pill might help her. Looks like those people didn't want to kill Layla. Just catch her. She is a holy maiden of the cult of Podmere, practicing the art of their marriage. Camilla sees the girl as a threat, with natural charm, so she can steal William away. Next, we are shown a strange shot of what William's wife is up to. Layla doesn't fall for the charm and says she can't help it because she's badly hurt. Camille climbs to her chest and asks not to be afraid. She will be gentle. Layla ayas and goes into shock. Why is the man across the hall doing this? She's on her knees with her last strength, begging her ancestor to let her go. The girl should know that she willingly gave her soul, so she can die at any moment. Would Layla prefer to die to preserve her innocence? She says that's right. The girl agrees to anything but that. Camille is pleased with this kind of answer and will remember this choice. Layla had heard that the ancestor of the Xiao family was obsessed with vulgarities. Otherwise, he hadn't had nearly 10,000 children in 100 years. But what he just said now didn't sound like these strange rumors. Anyway, the most important thing right now was to survive. Layla thanks her ancestor for his kindness. Now she is ready to work as a slave. Except Camille doesn't need that kind of happiness and asks her to find a quiet place and tell her about the Podmere cult. The men thank Ace for accompanying them. Kunlun will remember their kindness. The master is also there, ordering the traitor to quickly approach her. Ace says it's a mistake, and they're not here to escort Lucy, but to discuss possibilities together. Besides, the sister's now William's concubine. She's not likely to want to come back. Most importantly for Kunlun, their apprentice whom they have diligently trained, marriage to Xiao is a blow to their clan. The master promises that Lucy will definitely be punished for this and imprisoned. The head reaches out to take the girl's hand, but she resists and moves a certain distance away. David says that if they agree to marry, they will be given 3 copies of magical power and also 10 billion spirit stones. Magical power to the prehistoric level is something not even the Holy Land possesses. Kunlun people ask if they are serious before what they said. If they really have 3 prehistoric level divine powers, Master is willing to give even 10 of her disciples. The main character confirms that he does take all of this seriously. In that case, it's time for them to head to the main summit. An inexplicable sadness appeared in Lucy's heart. The elders had truly traded her away. While William gave her the freedom and power to choose her own goal, and when she made the choice, the system in her head was locked down. The girl is really glad she was able to meet a man like him.